you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Akua, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, how are you doing? New day, new week, new edition of GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel. We're with you right through until 9:30 this morning.
And here's what's leading the news this morning. A rebellion is brewing over the Prime Minister's Rwanda policy as backbench Tory MPs on the left and right weigh up their support for his bill.
Well, the Prime Minister is also in the COVID spotlight today. The inquiry is set to quiz the PM over his Eat Out to Help Out scheme during the pandemic.
It's all over for Nigel Farage in the jungle, who made it to the final of I'm a Celebrity last night. He came in third. We'll be speaking to the man himself a little bit later on in the programme. Plus, I'm a Celeb icons Fatima Whitbread and Christopher Biggins. And we'll also be speaking to Adam Cherry, who's in the Gold Coast for us.
That's right, join me live from the Gold Coast with all the latest reactions from last night's final, including a special message from Nigel himself later on in the programme.
And what a weekend of sport it has been. Some crazy results. Paul Coyte with those.
Yes, Chelsea lose again to inform Everton. Spurs see off Newcastle. And how about this? Fulham beat West Ham by 5 goals.
Yeah.
And it's Dawn Neesom's birthday today.
Right.
And I don't really know whether I should mention it, because I think it would be very upsetting for her. What do you think?
That's the dilemma.
Yeah, she's
just
touchy about things like that.
OK, right.
Yeah,
OK,
no,
so no mention of West Ham whatsoever.
Right, OK. But we will mention the weather. Ellie Glazer with that.
Despite a drier and brighter start for many of us this morning, there's further wet and windy weather on the way. Join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
And we love to hear from you, whatever it is. Tell us about your weekend or your plans for the week, or indeed this big day for Rishi Sunak. Let your thoughts be known. gbviews@gbnews.com.
So what,
you can tweet us at
you want
GBNews.
people to let us what they think of Rishi Sunak's big day? Rishi's having a big day today.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, a lot of people are saying this could be the beginning of the end for the Prime Minister.
Or for the next week or so.
Mm.
Well, now you're talking. Get in touch.
So to our top story this morning, it is make or break time for the Prime Minister as a Conservative rebellion is growing over his latest iteration of the Rwanda bill.
So you've got this whole collection of Conservative MPs from the right of the party and from the left of the party. On the right, they've formed what is termed a star chamber, whatever that means. It seems to be an unprecedented gathering of 4 backbench groups. They will decide whether to support his latest policy on Rwanda.
And on the more moderate Liberal side of the Conservative Party, around 100 MPs within the One Nation caucus are also meeting to discuss their support for the Rwanda plan, and they're due to give a statement later this evening at 7 o'clock.
Right. Yet, despite that, it will be COVID, which preoccupies most of Sunak's day. From 10:30, he will be giving evidence at the COVID inquiry in his capacity as former Chancellor.
Well, let's get some analysis on all of this then from the political commentator Alex Armstrong. So I suppose the question is, how worrisome is everything that's going to happen with the Rwanda bill for the Prime Minister?
Extremely worrisome. Like, bearing in mind, there hasn't been a defeat of government bill since Thatcher, right? So we're going back a long way, and it's going to take 29 MPs to defeat this bill. So Rishi really needs to keep everyone on board here. So it's looking like he's managed, Rishi Sunak, who self-dubbed himself as a safe pair of hands, has now managed to upset both the soft left of his party and the right of his party. He can't seem to make anyone happy at the moment. And, of course, today we've got the first, reading of this so-called Star Chamber. I don't know who gives people these titles. They just come up with them themselves. So these are the top lawyers in the Conservative Party. It's led by the veteran Brexiteer, Sir Bill Cash. So they're going to go and give their assessment today of the Rwanda bill. But we already kind of know what they're going to say, because Bill Cash has put forward some thoughts in the Telegraph yesterday, and he said it's not sufficiently watertight enough to meet the government's objectives of flights taking off to Rwanda. So we already know there's going to be MPs voting against this. So it's really going to come down to, is there appetite to push Sunak out into the fields here to see if they can find a new way to negotiate with him on this policy to get what they really want, which is a tougher piece of legislation. Or perhaps Sunak will say, back it, or I'll leave. We're in unprecedented waters here.
I think he is between a rock and a hard place, to be fair. I mean, how on earth do you appease those two wings when, you've got the One Nation who are frankly just allergic to anyone tampering with any kind of international treaty, and then you've got the right-wingers who literally want the Prime Minister to go harder. I think in many ways you could say that if this first reading of the bill fails first time since the 80s, it might well be the end of the current Conservatives.
I mean, I can't see a way forward for Rishi here. I think he's checkmated himself. And we know, look, he inherited this policy, so let's be clear, it's not his policy, but he has to do something here. And I don't know what the political waters are looking like for there to be some kind of leeway on either side. So either way, we're going to get some form of rebellion. It just depends on how big it is.
But he must have seen this coming. I mean, to send what's his name?
James Cleverly.
Out to Rwanda, and all of us are just told, oh, there's an agreement, and we see handshaking going on. We're not told what's in it. And then suddenly all of this begins to, well, what actually did Cleverly present out there? And it seems to be not a great deal different than there was before.
Yeah, that's right, Eamonn. There's not really much, not much has changed at all. And, as I think there's been the common joke this week, there's been more ministers in Rwanda than anyone else, more Tories in Rwanda than illegal immigrants, so to say. I mean, look, he's in really hot water at the moment. I really think Rishi's going to have a tough week. On top of that, we've got COVID inquiry coming up, whether he's going to be called Dr. Death the big one, Dr. Death. I mean, what kind of a title is that? Dr. Death, Rishi Sunak. So we've got all the buzzwords. We've got Star Chamber. We've got the 4 families, which was originally the 5 families. We've got Dr. Death. We've got it all this week. It's going to be a complete show. And on top of that, we have the COVID inquiry really about to kick off today. One slip up, and I think it's all done for Rishi.
OK, Alex, foreboding stuff, that. Let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.com. Alex Armstrong, for the moment, thank you. Alex will be staying with us throughout the programme this morning, and if you've got something to put to him, he is there. He is well up for it. Well, it wasn't quite the outcome he had hoped for in the jungle last night, but, you know, top 3.
Yeah, Nigel Farage ended his time in the jungle in 3rd place after making the final of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Made in Chelsea star Sam Thompson was the king of the jungle, with former boxer Tony Bellew as the runner-up. Here's what Nigel had to say.
Obviously, there were people there that took very different views on Brexit and other subjects. And I never raised one political debate in there, not one in the whole time I was there. Others did with me. But I think I managed to persuade them that we should respect the right of the other person to have a different point of view. And I had no screaming arguments.
No, there wasn't any
I mean, Fred wanted to have screaming arguments. He kept sort of poking me with a stick. But no, we had proper debates. And I think in the end, I hope the other campmates respected my point of view. So no big fallouts. And yeah, if the public had put me number 3, I couldn't be more thrilled.
Well, you could, you fibber.
Matt Hancock came 3rd as well, so I'm sure he's not happy about coming
exactly.
2nd. Matt Hancock.
I came 3rd, but I couldn't be more happy. Anyway, we're very happy for you. Nigel's better than the alternative, better than coming last.
True.
Adam Cherry, tell us more.
Morning, guys. Yeah, 3rd place, not bad, eh? We're actually stood directly outside the Marriott Hotel right now, where all the celebrities and their families have been shuttled over after their stint in the jungle. He's happy with that. 3rd place, 23-day stint, not a bad innings. As for last night, before we got to the result, before Sam won, it was another day of trials. So we're going to play you a little clip here. Just before we managed to get through to the end, they had to dump a bunch more snakes on him. So take a look at this.
A lot of people would like a snake to strangle me, I suppose.
What would you normally be doing on a Sunday?
Down the boozer.
Where are you going to in your head, you know?
I'm thinking about things I've done in my life that were worse than this.
And go on.
Being stuck in that little aeroplane that crashed a few years ago when I was trapped in the wreckage.
Right.
Dealt with a few snakes in your time, though, I presume?
European Parliament was stuffed with them. Terrible lot.
One last trial to get through. So, yeah, as I say, Sam wins, Tony Bellew comes 2nd, and Nigel takes the bronze medal. Now, whilst we were here, we were able to see, and we're going to show you this footage, we were able to see Sam, Tony and Nigel arrive and greet their families at the Marriott here. It was really good footage, really nice. Big crowd, it was very busy, great stuff. Nigel telling the cameras, telling GB News, 23 days, as I say, 23 days is not a bad innings. So he will be happy with that, and you'll have a chance to talk to him directly on the programme at about 8:30, so you can ask him exactly what it was like having those snakes dumped on him and eating all those creepy crawlies. As for what is next, again, something you must ask him. The newspapers it's all over the news in the last couple of days. Will he sign some sort of pact with Boris Johnson? Is he making a return to frontline politics? All of that still to come, and definitely something to keep an eye on. So the fun isn't all quite over yet, guys.
Well, that will be top of our list of questions for Farage this morning. Is he going to make a comeback with his old mucker Boris? All to play for. Thank you very much, Adam. Appreciate it.
Talking about comebacks, Fatima Whitbread, I tell you what, we're going to bring her in now because she's a former I'm a Celebrity contestant, not just once, but twice. Fatima.
Yeah, they brought back memories, that did, Eamonn. I'm waiting for the day that you go in, to be fair. I think we'll do very well.
Well, my kids always say to me, Dad, you would either be first out or you would win it.
I think you'd win it, Eamonn.
Oh, gosh, there's so much,
I'm on
Fatima.
the Eamonn team.
But Fatima, why did you go back for a second time? You did, you had your stint first time and then you had this all-stars gathering. Was once not enough to put you off?
Definitely not. I guess I'm silly enough to go in a third time if they invite me. It was a really great experience. Money can't buy one. And for me, it was all about, it's the toughest bit isn't so much the credits, it's getting on with the celebrities, the large characters and the big egos. That's the challenge, really. And for me, I loved every minute of it. I'm that kind of person, sponge to water. I mean, the challenge is interesting in terms of, you know, in I'm a Celeb All Stars, it was much more cutthroat because it was by ballot and secret ballot and eliminations. There were no public voting. Whereas the first time I went in 2011, yes, of course it was public voting. And, you know, there was long periods of time where you were sat about doing nothing and it was quite a challenge. But me, I'm the sort of person that keeps myself busy. I get up at usually 6 o'clock in the morning before everybody else is up and I'm doing my workouts. Carol Vorderman helped me this year. She was doing her workout as well. And, you know, just general jobs around camp keep you busy, you know, and yeah, I loved it. I loved every minute.
But Fatima, I mean, I'm full of admiration for you, and I've also seen you on SAS Who Dares Wins, where you were not the youngest of the team, but you were definitely one of the most impressive, and it stayed with me. But so it's no surprise to me that the challenges in the jungle for you weren't the hard part, but you're a very nice person. I can't imagine it was hard for you to get on with the big egos and the difficult characters. You're very tolerant.
But she's not the problem. They're the problem.
I know, but you could just ignore it, surely.
Well, it's tough because you're in a very tight, confined area there. It's only a size of a football pitch where everything's surrounded and the conditions are quite, you know, torrid. You know, people get tired, hungry, they're stripped back to the bone, really. No communication with family. And people often ask me, are you allowed out at night time? And do you go and sleep in a hotel or have a full meal? And the answer is no. It is what you see, what you get. And I feel that there are lots of people that when they go in there, they underestimate the challenge of what it can ask of you, you know. And yeah, for me, I love a challenge, so it didn't make no difference. And you know, I love watching this year as well. Sam brought a lot of energy to it. Nigel was quite, you know, I think stabilising. Tony was my favourite. And I think they had the right three in the end, the right four. Anyone was a worthy winner, to be fair.
OK. I think, Fatima, we talk about confrontation and whatever, and I think one of the weaknesses with the show that becomes more apparent year after year is that ITV have this pursuit of not wanting to offend anyone and not being left open to criticism. So people tend to be nicer and nicer than they would have if you went back 10 years on the show. And I think the entertainment, the entertainment for the viewer at home is, you know, some people not getting on
not
with
as
each
entertaining because they want to see controversy, Eamonn, as you know. I mean, I would agree in some respects. It's a lot easier now than it was in the past. I mean, there seems to be more food. People trying that much harder to get on in terms of not falling out with anybody because they don't want to become unpopular. And, of course, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know whether it's quite right. If you see it in the parochial way, you will see that ITV have selected people that do keep one another off, supposedly. But they've picked people, controversial people, to go in. So, I mean, they've had Nigel Farage, they've had Hancock. You know, who's next? I mean, if you're saying that it's not going to offend people, I think it has offended people in the masses. But other than that, in terms of the programme itself with the campmates, I think they've all worked exceptionally hard to stay unified, and you know, they collaborate much better than they probably did before. Yeah, there were a lot more kick-offs in the early days, and I think that makes for better entertainment, especially for the public.
Well, listen, we could talk to you all day. It's always a pleasure. And thank you for giving us an insight, Fatima, to all of this and a bit of perspective.
Eamonn, can I just ask you, because I do a lot for children in the care system, and this is one of the opportunities when we do programmes like this to get our backstory out. And I do a lot of work in the care system sector for young children, these young vulnerable children and young adults. And I would just like you to say, please, go on my website, fatimascampaign.com, and go and support these young kids. Christmas is coming upon us, and a lot of these young kids will be sat alone on their own. And I want to make the difference. I want to ask you to help me make the difference. So go on my Just Giving page and help these young people, if you may. Fatima's campaign.
I will do that. I had a lovely conversation with you many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, on a programme called Sporting Greats, and we talked about your own personal story. And if you don't know Fatima's story, I would say look it up and see what this woman has gone through and been through and transformed herself and just made the most out of life. And it's absolutely inspiring. So good luck with all the work that you continue to do to this day.
Thank you. God bless you all.
God bless. Happy Christmas. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
What a nice woman.
She's just inspiring in every possible way, and we will do that. It'll be an honour to donate to that. So thanks very much, Fatima. OK, time is 6:17. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel. Here's a reminder of our top stories this morning.
Rebellion brewing over the Prime Minister's Rwanda policy. Backbench Tory MPs on the left and right will weigh up support for the bill. A vote to be held tomorrow.
Well, this comes as the Prime Minister's also facing the COVID inquiry today, where he's set to be quizzed over his Eat Out to Help Out scheme during the pandemic.
The Qatari Prime Minister has warned the chances of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is narrowing as Israel continues with their bombardment of Gaza. It comes as the Israeli Prime Minister said the war is in full swing.
And fresh weather warnings have been issued as Storm Fergus sweeps across the country. Yellow weather warnings and over 40 flood warnings have also been issued across England and Scotland. Gale force winds are likely to hit South Wales and areas along the Bristol Channel.
The United Kingdom's tax level has increased to its highest record on rate, according to new data from the OECD. This comes as separate figures show the UK now faces the highest level of property taxes across the developed world. The day that Christmas falls, I think Christmas on a Monday, that conspires to make it a bad day or a bad week the week before for travelling, because people will not travel on the Christmas Eve or the Saturday, they'll travel on the Friday and the Thursday. So festive getaway traffic is expected to peak earlier than normal.
Well, the AA is predicting that Friday, December the 22nd... Oh, that might be why you've not yet accepted my invite to come over. And Saturday, December the 23rd.
Do you think yours is the only offer I have on the table?
It's the best offer.
Yeah, well, OK, maybe right.
Anyway, Friday the 22nd, Saturday the 23rd, set to be the busiest days on the UK's roads this festive period.
I can't resist Isabel's offer to visit her, because her offer to me was, come and see my toilet. so you're very
last time you came to my house, it was a bit shabby.
Yeah, and it's now the colour of your dress today.
Well,
it's a
nice bit darker blue, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. Motoring journalist Amanda Stretton joins us now. Amanda, I think it's important to get that day right. That day, do you travel on the Thursday, the Friday, the Saturday or the Sunday?
Absolutely. I thought you were saying the day you go and visit Isabel's toilet. No, it is very important. And obviously, look, because Christmas does fall on the Monday, everybody is going to be making use of that extra weekend to go and visit family, friends, and make those long journeys. So it really doesn't come as much of a surprise that we're going to be seeing big traffic on Friday the 22nd. And I think people should just make plans accordingly, because, of course, we've had so much wet weather recently. Where I am in Oxfordshire, the roads are flooded all over the place. And so if you are going to be making journeys, just make sure you pack sensibly, so that if you are stranded, you don't have a wet, cold, miserable Christmas.
Oh dear, isn't that depressing? I mean, I thought you were going to say when you make your plans accordingly, you might say get up at 5 and head off before the rush. But actually, the reality is pack blankets in case you're bumper to bumper for 8 hours. Sounds horrific. Would you stacked high with Christmas presents and the dog and the children are fighting in the back seat?
Oh, you make Christmas sound so lovely.
It's real, though.
But yeah, I mean, you do. It's real, you do. You just need to make sure that if you are going out, you know, on particularly rural roads, and also, you know, because like with the wet weather, it disguises potholes. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is for you to hit a pothole and be stranded on the side of the road. I mean, it really would make for an extraordinarily unmerry Christmas. So just make sure you leave plenty of time. See if you can stagger your journey. And if you're driving on unfamiliar roads, just take extra care as well. But yeah, it's going to make for a nice long holiday for a lot of people, having Christmas on a Monday and then obviously New Year's Eve on the following Sunday, which means we've got more bank holidays the following week as well. So it's a good stretch for many people to have some much needed time off.
Indeed. And is there any merit in actually avoiding travelling at all until Christmas morning itself? And I know a lot of people like to wake up on Christmas morning where they're going, but the roads tend to be quieter, don't they, on Christmas Day?
Christmas Day, if you ever do have the opportunity to go for a drive, it's wonderful. I mean, many people who have maybe split families these days may well do that. In fact, my family's from Denmark, so we actually celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve, which has always meant I can go and visit people Christmas Day. I love it. It is possibly one of the nicest days to drive. The roads are almost empty. It's just a joy. It just reminds you what driving used to be like before our roads became incredibly busy. So yes, if you can leave it to Christmas morning, give yourself a little extra Christmas present. Enjoy some open road.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you very much. And may we be the first to wish you compliments of the season and have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm driving home for Christmas. I can't wait to see those faces. Have you ever sort of...
Yeah, that's my favourite Christmas song, because it always makes me think... I worked one Christmas Day.
Why do I do that when the steering wheel's only about that size?
Yeah. Just make it bigger.
But if you were driving a bus, it would be that size, wouldn't it?
Driving your bus home for Christmas. I remember driving on Christmas Day home from work, but I was about 4 or 5 hours later than I was supposed to be, and my whole family were waiting in my flat. Oh, it was awful. The Christmas dinner was burnt. But I remember just having that song going, driving home for Christmas.
And what were you working on?
Some floods, surprisingly.
Floods? A flood correspondent?
Floods, yeah, on a Christmas day.
Yeah, well, I hope it's not floody at Christmas. I hope it's just a light sprinkling of snow or frost. Frost is quite good instead of snow.
Frost is pretty, yeah.
Yeah, frost is pretty. Blue skies, frosty. That's quite nice. Ellie Glazer will tell you what it's going to look like today.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazer. It's been a bit of a drier start for most of us today, although quite a chilly start across parts of Scotland. We could see some icy stretches along southwestern parts of Scotland, but elsewhere, generally a much drier and brighter start to the new working week. Some showers pushing in across parts of northern and central England and along eastern coast of Scotland as well, but generally it'll be a dry afternoon for most of us with plenty of sunshine around. With some light winds as well, temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 12 degrees, so probably feeling a little more pleasant than we've seen over recent days. Through the rest of Monday, a change is on the way though. Low pressure sits out towards the west, slowly moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Monday and into Tuesday. This bringing some heavy rain and showers to Northern Ireland, Wales into Northern England and southwest England too through the early hours of Tuesday morning, and quite a cloudy night for most of us as that rain arrives. Blustery winds as well, helping to keep temperatures in the south perhaps even in the double figures, but a chilly night again across parts of Scotland. Through Tuesday morning, that rain continues to push its way north and eastwards, particularly heavy across parts of eastern Scotland through Tuesday morning, where we could see some localised flooding due to that very saturated ground. Further south, showers pushing in quite quickly from the southwest. These likely to turn very heavy in places, although there will be some sunnier breaks between those showers. Temperatures in the south around 10 to 12 degrees again, but a little closer to average across northern Scotland and parts of England.
No, something very, very different from you. GB News transforms. We bring you something that no other news programme in the world can bring you. And that is, Isabel?
Well, it is a big prize of cash, brand new tech and shopping vouchers.
£10,000 cash.
Not bad at this time of year.
Yes, and shopping vouchers. You could be the winner of our very first Great British Giveaway.
Well, here's all the details of how you could make those prizes yours.
This week, we're launching the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to grab some amazing prizes and start your new year the right way. You could win an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Imagine having all of that extra cash in your bank account. We'll also bring you bang up to date with the very latest iPhone 15 Pro Max. And we'll give you £500 worth of shopping vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. For your chance to win the iPhone, the vouchers and £10,000 cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB01, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 5th of January. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
You're not allowed to apply.
Am I not? So if I win, could we not just say it was my next door neighbour or something?
That's quite good.
Right, OK, no, you're right, forget that. Right, OK, so there you are, and that runs until January. Good luck with that.
Very good luck.
There was so many up and down scores over the weekend. We've got Paul Coyte with all the football news and lots more after this.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It is fast approaching 6:30. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Rebellion is brewing over the Prime Minister's Rwanda policy as backbench Tory MPs on the left and right weigh up their support for the bill.
It comes as the PM faces the COVID inquiry. He'll be quizzed over his Eat Out to Help Out scheme during the pandemic.
And it wasn't quite the outcome that he'd hoped for. Nigel Farage has finished his time in the jungle, but he came third. We'll be speaking to Nigel later on in the programme to hear about his time in the jungle.
Football results over the weekend, they were all over the place. I mean, I'm absolutely ashamed of the Manchester United defeat at home against Bournemouth, 3-0.
Could have been 4.
Should have been 4,
yeah.
Probably. I actually thought it was really hard done by that guy to be judged as handball.
Yeah, it was sort of like falling over, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was like hit the hand and went in, but 3-4. So United, you got a huge game coming up Bayern Munich at home, who lost, by the way, who actually got spanked as well. I think it was 5-1 they got beat.
Did they?
Yeah. So there's still a hope. You never know, but Harry Kane's going to play, so Harry's going to be thinking...
well, I won't hold out much hope there.
Well, you never know. You never know.
Chelsea, again, they're in the doldrums.
Well, interesting. So Chelsea get beaten by Everton. And it's interesting if you compare the two. Everton have had this 10-point deduction, so they're fighting back, and Sean Dyche is doing a great job at Everton. There's no question about that. We've got Chelsea have spent £1 billion. This stuff about £1 billion. Todd Bowley spent £1 billion since he's been running it there. Pochettino's come in. 10 players he's bought for £400 million, and... They've won 5 out of 16 games. It's all pretty disastrous at the moment. I still think something will happen with it. I still believe in him. But there are fans now getting very uncomfortable. They're like in 12th position. And it's really not good enough, though, is it, for Chelsea? And he now says he wants more money to spend. So spent $1 billion. It's like, well, maybe we need another $1 billion to buy a few more players. But it really isn't working out well for them. Whereas Everton are also, they're going to be... they're going to be fighting against that 10-point deduction, so that could push them even higher. So they're doing really well, and they're out of the relegation area.
I feel sorry for Luton, who are in the relegation zone. Yeah. They're losing a lot of games, but just by the odd goal.
Yeah, I mean, it happened with Liverpool when they drew there. That was right at the end. And then Arsenal the other week. Yeah. And Manchester City. I mean, they went 1 up against Man City. So Man City, who have had a bit of a wobble, are now at Luton. So it's a good result for them. Fulham, I mean, I don't know. I've already had a chat with Dawn. I think it's probably going to be OK. So
really?
It's Dawn's birthday today.
Oh.
And West Ham. See, the thing is, she was all happy because they beat Spurs on Thursday 2-1, but then they play against Fulham and lose 5-0. So it's a thumping. Oh. And David Moyes is saying they're a bit tired from the game the other day, so that may be the reason.
Oh dear,
but
not the best birthday present for our Dawn.
I know, poor Dawn. And Spurs thumped Newcastle 4-1 yesterday as well.
So basically, there was a lot of thumping going on.
Honestly,
it was quite a violent weekend.
It was thumping. have I used the word thump quite a few times? Thumping, thrashing, all those things. It was a thumping. I'll tell you, there was an interesting thing that happened. Did you see that, Eamonn, with Vicario? That's Guillermo Vicario and Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
That happened.
This is the respect issue, is it? He stuck his tongue out.
He stuck his tongue out. It's from The Godfather, I think.
You stick your tongue out all the time. Eamonn sticks his tongue out all the time.
Do you?
These players really get on my threepennies. They really do.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of, well, he disrespected me. I just don't really understand. If disrespect, you kick him on the shin. You know, I just don't get it.
See, what happened? I'll tell you that I think there's more history behind this because Callum Wilson was on a podcast a few months ago, and he was laughing and taking the mickey out of Richarlison, plays for Spurs, who hadn't scored many goals, and he's saying he's had more yellow cards, this and that. And there's, again, no respect that was going on there. So then Vicario, who is the Spurs goalkeeper, as he picked the ball up out of Wilson, turned around, stuck his tongue out, made a face. So Callum Wilson then complains afterwards, saying...
He stuck his tongue out at me, referee.
He stuck his tongue out at me, there's no respect. I need more respect. And so anyway, there's been a post on social media, talk about mounted out of a molehill. So anyway, Vicario has then posted something on Instagram saying, well, there we are, look, there's the post itself, and this is what he put on there, saying after Callum Wilson had complained, saying, respect is given to everybody who respects me.
Yeah, you know, I mean, all of this is over someone sticking his tongue out at someone else. Really is pathetic, actually. Right, let's get into...
boxing?
And boxing, because... sticking your tongue out won't do you much good there.
No, it really won't. Can you imagine if you stuck your tongue out during a boxing? If you could...
Thump.
No.
Chris Billum-Smith, so he beat Matthias Masternak to retain the WBO cruiserweight title. Now, do you know where cruiserweight sits when it comes into the... Because there's...
Looking at them, like mid-range.
There's
85 kilos or something.
17 weights there are in boxing.
Sorry. I thought you were guessing the weight.
No, you are. No, I'm just saying there's so many different weights. So whereabouts you are?
I think cruiserweight is pretty high up.
It is high up.
Yeah, I actually think it's more than heavyweight.
Correct.
Oh.
Is that right?
It's actually just below heavyweight. You've got light heavyweight, then cruiserweight, and then heavyweight. Do you know why it's called cruiserweight? I didn't want to turn this into a quiz. I'm so sorry.
I love the quizzes.
Do you love the quizzes?
I do.
Cruiserweight. So why cruiserweight for such a heavy?
Well, it's
for where it is.
You would vary between weights. You could be heavyweight one week and cruising.
Well, so you're cruising between the weights.
Yeah, I don't know.
I tell you what it is.
It's from going on cruises and you put on weight when you're on a cruise.
You're not a million miles
Stop
away.
it.
It's a ship, but a cruiser is like a warship, and it's the second biggest one. For example, HMS Belfast on the Thames, that's a cruiser. So it's the second biggest one.
Are you going to tell us what weight
cruiser,
then? You have to be in the cruiser weight.
It's just under 200 pounds.
Oh,
just under 200 pounds. I don't know what kilos are. I can work on stones, but I don't know where we are
200.
there.
What's that in stones?
If you can work in stones, why are you giving it in pounds?
Because that's the way they do it in boxing. You see, that's what they do. They don't say weighing in at 10 stones. They say it in pounds because that's what they do. So
it's 90 kilos.
90 kilos. What does that work out?
And that in stone is, bear with. Oops. God, the pressure.
I tell you, they're quicker.
14 stone.
14 stone.
So there we go. 200 pounds, 14 stone, 90 kilos.
It's really heavy, 14 stone.
I'd have said that's like upper levels.
Yeah.
90 kilos. The average man is like a 70 kilo man.
Are you saying you could fight Anthony Joshua?
Or to be 14 stone. That'll be all right.
Do you know what the smallest one is?
Ooh.
The smallest.
Bantam.
It's even smaller than that.
Smaller than bantam.
I don't know the name of it, and I don't know what it is in pounds, so I'm
What do you reckon in pounds? 105 pounds is straw weight.
Ooh.
Who would be 105 pounds? So what's 105 pounds?
Well,
That's not
if
much,
14
is it?
pounds in a stone, you're less than 10 stone.
Right, and do you know what a welter is? You know, with a welterweight? Because I didn't know what a welter was.
Well, I thought welter's heavier than straw or bantam.
It is. Welter's further up, but I don't know what a welter is. And apparently a welter, it's something to do, it's like a horse term from the 1890s.
Okay.
So that's where they get welter from. I could go through every 15 divisions. So if you imagine how many world titles, so you've got about 5 world titles. You've got your WBO, your WBC, WBA, IBA, BBC, you name it, you've got everyone. So for all the different weights and all these different world titles, you've got, goodness knows, how many world champions.
Yeah.
So really, if they could just turn it into one, that's when it comes to the undisputed, all in there is the perfect way of going.
And then the weigh-ins, where you've got to... Some people have got to take off their underpants, for instance.
Do they actually have to take off their pants?
Well, of course, I've been at weigh-ins where the guys have taken off their pants, yeah.
Are you sure it was one of those? It was a proper boxing one, was it?
It was.
I've never been to one of those weigh-ins.
I'm pretty sure that's not normal.
How much do pants weigh?
What are they doing,
how much do pants weigh?
Well,
they can't be that heavy.
They may weigh too much, yeah.
You think so? So they remove the pants?
Definitely, yeah.
Because I know sometimes they'll go off and they'll go into a sauna, try and sweat it off.
Yeah.
And don't drink anything and then drink loads afterwards to put the weight on. But I didn't realise the pants would make so much difference.
There you go.
Anything, I mean, cutting your hair makes a difference.
Does it really? Is it really?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Of course it does.
Yeah. I just didn't think, get hair extensions, put on some weight.
Cut your ear off.
Nightmare.
Lose a couple of fingers. That's probably not a good idea for
Cut
a
your
boxer.
fingernails, whatever. Yeah. Thank you, my friend.
I felt like Harry Carpenter for a second. Did you think I did him justice?
There was a class act.
There was a class act.
Yeah. Harry and Big Frank. Know what I mean, Harry?
I mean, Harry, yeah.
Thank
That's
you
a good
very
one.
much. Still to come. Not great news in the lead up to Christmas. Comfort eating can actually give you stress.
Oh, gosh.
Well, I don't think that's right. I think you eat because of stress. But
it's self-perpetuating, makes it worse.
It's a vicious circle.
It goes in circles. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. That's Headline Makers next.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Akua, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, Freddie Gray joins us together with Happy Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Don Neesom.
Just don't mention the hammers.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I love that. Thank you.
Good. You doing anything today?
I'm going to be, I think, what you should do on every birthday is going to be a child again. So I'm going to go to Winter Wonderland and I go on all the rides, and my husband's going to try and win me a cuddly toy.
That's nice. That's I like that. That's
Nothing
very,
like
very
being
good.
10 again,
That's very good. Well, we'll go from 10 to number 3. Nigel Farage, 3rd in the I'm a Celebrity jungle. And Isabel, you were looking today. There's a story in the Mail that
Well, there's lots of chatter, to be honest, about a possible Boris Farage
political link-up.
Yeah, but obviously they had this before, and as Nigel will tell you, Boris reneged on it. So, you know, will Farage be once bitten, twice shy?
Well, who could ever work with Boris Johnson? I mean, you would think, I've got an idea. Here's a partnership, you and Boris Johnson. I think not.
You wouldn't trust him, would you?
No.
I don't think you'd trust him. I think, you know, Nigel Farage has done incredibly well in the jungle. I think he came across as people perceive Nigel to be a monster, no matter what you think of his politics. People perceive him to be a monster, but in 3 weeks you get to know somebody, and I thought he came across really well. And the fact that he came 3rd with the campaign against him online as well. Honestly, it's more divisive than Brexit, the whole thing, wasn't it? But I thought he did incredibly well, and there is a lot of support out there for him to go back into politics. And, you know, I think it's how it works, I don't know.
Let's face it, I mean, Boris Johnson is in politics because he was a TV personality. Donald Trump was in politics because he was a TV personality. So the public seem to like this idea, Freddie, that they get to know people and they say, I like him or her, or I don't like him or her.
Boris a TV personality?
What?
Boris?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, well, see, please stop questioning me.
No,
when
it's just a question. What did I miss?
Have I got news for you? Whatever, all these things.
He was a sort of media celebrity, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think, I think Nigel, it's been a net positive for Nigel Farage, that's obvious. But I think, you know, cynics will say Matt Hancock came 3rd in the jungle.
He's a bore.
And he's a bore. No one talks about his great political comeback after he came out of the jungle. I think he was quite restrained from the bits that I saw and from reading about it. I actually find it very difficult to watch, I'm a Celebrity. I find it really boring.
You think he was on his best behaviour?
I think he was really on his best behaviour. I mean, some people say he was, you know, there was editing, the ITV producers didn't like his political opinions, so they were fun-washing him either for good or for bad. But I think that, you know, he came across as the amiable man that we all know he is, but not particularly exciting or dynamic. It wasn't a sort of Trumpian, everyone was outraged every day by stuff he was saying. So I'm not sure that it's teed him up entirely for a great political comeback.
But perhaps, do we want politicians with personalities, or do we want politicians with policies that they stick to and that help us? And I would rather have the latter, to be honest with you. I mean, we've had prime ministers with personalities. Boris Johnson springs to mind. But
people are so easily led.
Well, this is the thing, Eamonn, and it's such a celebrity-driven media now, especially with social media on top of it.
Well, you're in luck, Dawn, because next year you'll get to choose between Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak.
Whoopie-doo, thank you.
That will be... I mean, the politician slot every year will... I mean, it will just be dire next year. Who are they going to put in there?
A barrister or a banker? Wasn't Rishi a former hedge fund manager type thing?
Rishi? Yes.
Yes, and a barrister.
Yeah. And look
Thanks,
at this,
Freddie.
And look at this president of Argentina. You probably can't see that close up there, front page of the Financial Times today. But he is just... He's a number of people. He looks like David Dickinson. He looks like the auctioneer. He looks like him as well.
You have a theory on who he looks like as well, don't you?
I can't remember his name. The lead singer of Supergrass. Do you remember the band Supergrass?
I do, yeah.
Oh,
Fitting
yeah.
image.
All the
I think he looks like an ageing Harry Potter.
Yes. I could go for that as well. But it just looks... His hair looks like a wig. His eyebrows look as if they're stuck on. The glasses look like props.
Zelensky was down there for that as well, trying to get sort of funds for his war from Argentina.
Yeah, Zelensky's
What is
weird.
something about the hair? Trump... Actually, Farage's hair is fairly normal.
Boris's hair is fairly outlandish.
Millet's hair.
Yes, the hair.
If you want to be a successul populist, get crazy hair.
Get crazy hair.
That's why Boris used to, famously, would ruffle up his hair before he went on TV.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was all deliberate.
It's all about the hair, people.
Right, well, let's talk about Rwanda, shall we? It's a big day for Rwanda. There's possible breaking news from the different wings of the Tory party at various different times today, midday and 7 o'clock, we're told. And the Home Office believe 99% of individual legal challenges by migrants will fail to block their deportation, according to the Times.
Do you know what we haven't had for almost a year, just over a year, is a Tory leadership contest.
Or a new Prime Minister.
And a new Prime Minister. So the Tories are going to try and give us that this week.
It does feel like that.
It does feel a little bit like that. And in fact, you know, one of the reasons this hasn't happened already is because the Tories have said to themselves, we can't possibly do it again. We have to stick with Rishi Sunak, no matter how bad it gets, because if we do our own Harry Kiri exercise again, and produce another Prime Minister, we're going to be even more of a laughingstock. But the problem is that the Tory party is at war with itself, and it's decided to go to war with itself over the Rwanda plan, which is an absurd thing to go to war over because it exists in a kind of legal limbo where nobody even knows whether it will work, even if it's passed. People hate it from the One Nation Tories, on the sort of left of the party, if you like, hate it. The Tories on the right increasingly hate it, don't think it will work. So both are arguing over something that they don't think will really work anyway.
It's a particular talent to find something that both wings of your party loathe.
That is also not going to work.
Yeah. But it's become totemic, hasn't it?
How do you even do that? How do you do that? How do you pick something that everyone thinks is rubbish and then fight over it?
Well, because there is no other alternative. I put it to you. I mean, what else could he do?
I think listening to Robert Jenrick yesterday on various interviews, you suddenly realise if you don't do anything, how are you going to sustain 400,000 migrants in this country per year? He says it is unsustainable.
Well, it is unsustainable, but Rwanda isn't the answer. I don't know. If I knew what the answer was, I'd be running with messy hair, running for Prime Minister.
Well, a different third party, presumably, third party country, you know, one that doesn't have Kagame as the leader. And
a British territory, then, that would work. Ascension Island, which you can't have because it's an American military base. It's a rock in the middle of nowhere. The Falklands, Isle of Wight.
No, it doesn't have to be a British territory,
safe.
But it could be somewhere, you know, in South America or whatever, a country that needs an injection of cash, perhaps a low population rate.
Do we get a refund from Rwanda? How much we're given to Rwanda already?
No.
You don't get the money back.
Well, exactly.
And that's the... But, I mean, you know, or we could pull out the ECHR and adopt new legislation to override existing human rights legislation in Britain. Rishi Sunak is not going to do
that.
that.
Well, Rwanda have said they won't do the deal if we do that as well.
Well,
so can't win.
It's a dodo.
But
the Tories may well destroy themselves over it this week. They're in that sort of mood. I don't think they're quite... My bet would be that they're not quite in the mood to actually destroy Sunak yet.
But is he now just a lame duck?
Well, when you're 20 points behind in the polls, you sort of are a lame duck anyway. We've interviewed him for the Christmas edition of The Spectator. And the first question we asked him was, you know, are you enjoying it? I didn't ask this, our political editor did, and I'm not sure his answer was wholly convincing.
Of course he's not enjoying it. I mean, he's been successful in everything he's ever done. Everything he's touched has turned to gold, and he stood up so naively at the beginning of the year saying, I'm going to do this, this and this and this by the end of the year. Everybody else was saying, why have you said that? And he said, because I can do whatever I say, I achieve. Turns out, not this time.
Never have a 5-point plan, ever. No matter what you're doing in life, never have a 5-point plan.
What do you make, Dawn, then, of his Eat Out to Help Out scheme when he was Chancellor? Because that's what we're going to be hearing about today.
Yes,
the COVID inquiry.
The COVID inquiry, the ongoing, Rishi Sunak is due to give evidence today. He has already been deemed Dr. Death by Dame Angela McLean, Britain's most senior scientist, for this very policy. And our very own Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg has sat at the cabinet table at the time with Mr Sunak and said that basically the inquiry has already decided what they want to get out of this particular part of it, and the fact that the Eat Out to Help Out was a very bad idea and killed thousands of people. Now,
I remember at the time... People lauding it, saying, oh, we saved the hospitality industry.
No, but he didn't. That's the problem. It didn't really help the hospitality industry. I had a friend who worked in hospitality who ended up taking his own life because his business went to the wall over this one. It didn't help the hospitality industry, and I refuse to do it. I absolutely, because it's like it's not really helping out. It's using taxpayers' money to give taxpayers something that you're then going to have to pay for twice at the end of it. So I absolutely refuse to do it. If we went out at the time, and I didn't agree with a lot of the lockdown ridiculous rules in any case, but if I went out at the time to eat, I would pay full price. And I would tip the waiting staff double because I knew the strain they were going
But you also weren't going out because you didn't want to catch COVID.
Honestly, yes. As soon as restaurants and pubs were open, I was there. I was there.
I think it was economically a bit disastrous. I think it had inflationary consequences. But I think this is good news for Rishi Sunak politically, because I think most people now accept that lockdown was disastrous. And if he seemed to be on the side of it, whereas this inquiry is incredibly pro-lockdown still. I mean, this inquiry, all the conclusions of this inquiry seem to be pointing towards the fact we didn't lock down soon enough, hard enough, long enough, repeatedly enough. That's what this inquiry seems to be gunning towards.
But they've already decided, Freddie, don't you think
the public doesn't actually agree with that?
Don't you think they've already decided that? They've gone into this inquiry, which is costing taxpayers, again, millions of pounds, with preconceived ideas that they're just determined to prove.
Yeah.
And we won't learn anything for the next pandemic.
Well, right, let's talk about... I want to talk about property tax in this country. We're hearing, Freddie, that the economy has... the tax level in the economy has increased to its highest rate on record with properties.
Well, property taxes in Britain are very bad. They're among the worst in Europe. Our tax level generally, this new OECD, the OECD survey has found, is the highest on record. So we've already knew that it's the highest post-war in Britain. It's highest on record. That's an extraordinary thing after 12 years of a Conservative government. And we just said that the Tories are 20 points behind the polls. That's because Conservatives aren't supporting the Conservative Party anymore. People who vote Conservative want lower taxes. The Tories have given them the highest tax burden on record. That's why they're failing.
So who are you pointing the blame at? The Red Wall, people who wouldn't traditionally have been Tory voters who then turned Tory? Or what are you saying, that the Tory MPs aren't Tory enough? Or?
I think Boris Johnson has to take a lot of blame. I think he thought he could run a high-spend, low-tax economy. It's hard to do, particularly when productivity's been going down for so long. Liz Truss tried to address it, but was obviously disastrous in her execution of it. Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt promised that they're going to try and bring down the tax burden. They haven't done much so far. They are not a low-tax government. They are an extremely high-tax government.
Well, we've got less than a minute, but let's try and end on a high, as it's your birthday, Dawn, and retirement can roll back the years.
I'm not entirely sure that's helping, actually, Isabel.
Oh, sorry.
How close to retirement do you think I am?
I'm not suggesting you're linked to the story. I was just saying that we can all look forward to retirement.
Right, exactly, yes, which is not happening that soon, by the way. This is page 3 of the Daily Mail. A new study following more than 20,000 people aged 50 to 80 across 10 European countries found that retirement appears to have a transformational effect on everyday life and makes you feel happier and feel younger and live longer. Now, I'm sorry, I think this is mostly the spherical objects you hang on your Christmas tree.
Wow, OK. And the worst feeling I had this week was that a friend came to me and said that both her and her husband, at the age of 55, were retiring on full, final salary pensions.
Oh, the dream. Ooh.
What did they... Am I allowed to ask what they did?
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's been a bit of a drier start for most of us today, although quite a chilly start across parts of Scotland. We could see some icy stretches along southwestern parts of Scotland, but elsewhere, generally a much drier and brighter start to the new working week. Some showers pushing in across parts of northern and central England and along eastern coast of Scotland as well, but generally it'll be a dry afternoon for most of us with plenty of sunshine around. With some light winds as well, temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 12 degrees, so probably feeling a little more pleasant than we've seen over recent days. Through the rest of Monday, a change is on the way though. Low pressure sits out towards the west, slowly moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Monday and into Tuesday. This bringing some heavy rain and showers to Northern Ireland, Wales into Northern England and southwest England too through the early hours of Tuesday morning, and quite a cloudy night for most of us as that rain arrives. Blustery winds as well, helping to keep temperatures in the south perhaps even in the double figures, but a chilly night again across parts of Scotland. Through Tuesday morning, that rain continues to push its way north and eastwards, particularly heavy across parts of eastern Scotland through Tuesday morning, where we could see some localised flooding due to that very saturated ground. Further south, showers pushing in quite quickly from the southwest. These likely to turn very heavy in places, although there will be some sunnier breaks between those showers. Temperatures in the south around 10 to 12 degrees again, but a little closer to average across northern Scotland and parts of England.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsored.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to the programme. It's just gone 7 o'clock on Monday, the 11th of December, and you're tuned in to Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Are you feeling Christmassy yet?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
OK, we're just getting there. We're building up a wave of energy towards Christmas. Leading the news this morning, a lot of it is the same old, same old. Rebellion, though, brewing over the Prime Minister's Rwanda policy. This is because backbench Tory MPs on the left and the right weigh up their support for the bill. A vote tomorrow.
And the Prime Minister's also in the COVID spotlight today. The inquiry set to quiz the PM over his Eat Out to Help Out scheme during the pandemic.
Nigel Farage comes third in the jungle. It was the final last night, and we'll be speaking to him later in the programme, plus former winner Christopher Biggins.
And as the Rwanda ruling divides opinion, BBC star Gary Lineker and actor Brian Cox have signed a petition against the plan, but we'll be asking, shouldn't we leave the politics to politicians? We'll be debating that later on.
The sport comes to you today from Paul Coit, as it does sort of every day, practically.
But I'm here again.
But you're here again.
Yes, I am.
That's it just goes and proves you can't keep a good thing down.
Well, thank you very much. Chelsea lose to Everton, Spurs thrash Newcastle. We don't usually do Spanish football, do we? But I'm going to talk about Girona.
Why?
Girona, who were tiny, like 1999, they had like 200 people watching them and are now at the top of La Liga after beating Barcelona. So it's a very interesting story.
Wasn't there a song?
My Girona. I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah.
I just had a feeling.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. My Girona. That's all. Yeah, it's all about the team.
And it was Girona.
Well, it was Girona, but it's close enough. It was Girona.
So it wasn't Girona.
but the fans should sing My Girona. That's what they should do.
Go and see how you spell that.
Okay, I do. I'll have a look.
Meanwhile, for the latest weather forecast, Ellie Glazier has the latest.
Despite a drier and brighter start for many of us this morning, there's further wet and windy weather on the way. Join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
Thank you, Ellie, and you can join us throughout the whole programme today. Just let us know your thoughts, what way you're thinking today as you wake up on this Monday morning. What sort of mood are you in? What is your view towards the stories that we are discussing? And Nigel Farage in the jungle.
Yeah.
Did you want him to win, or was third good enough for him? GBviews at gbnews.com or tweet at GBnews.
Now, it's always busy when you're Prime Minister, but today is a particular pinch point for him. Rishi Sunak's facing a rebellion from Conservative MPs over his latest Rwanda bill.
That vote will be tomorrow, and it will be pre-COVID, or COVID preoccupied even, most of the Prime Minister's day today from 10:30. He will be giving evidence at the COVID inquiry, referring to his time as former Chancellor.
Well, joining us now is political commentator Alex Armstrong, and we joke, it's been over a year now since we've had a Tory leadership contest, but it certainly feels as though the party is really warming itself up for some sort of implosion on this particular bill.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on this week. I've got you all the buzzwords: pasta, plot, Dr. Death. I mean, you can't make it up. It sounds like a bad pantomime, doesn't it? But we're talking about the government, unfortunately. Obviously, we're talking today about COVID, and it's getting pretty serious. So the Dr. Death big headline that's coming out is actually the term coined by Professor Dame Angela McLean. She's the current government chief scientific advisor, and so she said this in a WhatsApp that got leaked out. So that's another one of those WhatsApp messages we're seeing coming out of this.
So her point being that by allowing Eat Out to whatever
Help Out,
he was getting people mixing. They were picking up COVID. Is that the inference?
That's right. Yeah. So behind the scenes, because Rishi Sunak and the finance department didn't actually consult the scientific advisory group. So they were obviously all WhatsApping, and they were saying, he's Dr. Death, it's Dr. Death. Actually, Boris also coined this term, the Death Squad, to talk about number 11.
But Alex, you could argue that the hospitality industry may well have died if he hadn't have done what he did.
Yeah, you could. I absolutely could. I mean, I think there's also a good argument to say that what he did do was keep afloat some businesses that were going to die anyway, and also has contributed massively to the inflation crisis we have today. There's lots of ways to look at this. Many people will actually, and many Tories will probably see a nice strong performance from Rishi today, because they'll see that he was the anti-lockdown guy, and there's a lot of Tories that really don't believe that lockdown were a good idea.
So, Alex, actually, the COVID inquiry, even though it's making most politicians sweat quite a lot, could be quite a nice distraction for the Prime Minister, because whilst he's tucked up cosily inside Baroness Hullett's inquiry just down the road from here, there's going to be press conferences at midday from the four families, or whatever it is that you want to tell us about the Star Chamber, and then another one this evening from the left of the Conservative Party. Both sides are going to report back on what they think of this bill. And if he fails to get this bill through tomorrow, there are people calling for an election.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think they might implode before that happens, before there's even an election to take place. The four families, I think there was five originally that I was reading yesterday, the sort of coined themselves this sort of Godfather style term, I don't know. But, yes, the Rwanda bill is rapidly approaching its first reading today. And we already know what Sir Bill Cash is going to say. He's a hardcore Brexiteer, and they're going to say it doesn't go far enough. It's not going to stop judges from stopping those planes from taking off to Rwanda, which is ultimately what Rishi needs to do to deliver.
Yeah.
And, we'll see.
On that subject, Alex, please just stay with us as we now speak to Bill Browder. Bill is a financier and a political analyst. He joins us from Madrid this morning about the state of what we were talking about, where the Conservative Party is going. Bill, on this one, what do you think is the thinking? What way will Sunak emerge from all this plotting that is going on come the vote tomorrow, Bill? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I mean, for me, the whole idea of Rwanda is an absurdity. Rwanda is run by a guy named Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame is well known in the human rights world as a dictator. He's what I would call the Putin of Africa. He's got a 99% quote approval rating in his country. Anybody who's opposed to him ends up dead, arrested, or in exile. Very close to the hero of Hotel Rwanda, Paul Rusesabagina, who was kidnapped and put in prison in Rwanda and sentenced to 25 years for criticizing Kagame. And this is a country that we're supposed to be sending back political refugees to. If we want to tell political refugees not to come to the United Kingdom, we could just easily send them back to where they're coming from. Iranian activists, will send them back to Iran if that's the idea, if you want to turn people off. But the idea of sending people to a country which is known to be a complete dictatorship makes no sense. And whoever came up with this idea, the whole thing should be scrapped.
It's interesting. Human Rights Watch have come out saying that this decree, this latest deal that James Cleverly delivered last week, is yet another sign of the UK government's disconnect from reality and its perversion of the facts. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, there are some places where the government is doing a great job, but this is one. I don't know who came up with this idea, but it just ignores reality. This is a country. Rwanda is not a country that anyone should be hitching their wagon to, and by doing so, it's a total self-inflicted wound. It doesn't make any sense in a country which has such a record. And by the way, the Supreme Court came up with the same conclusion that I've come up with, which is that this is not a country you want to send political refugees to. There are other ways of deterring migration or immigration, but this is not one of them.
Well, Bill, I'd love to know what those other ways are, because so many people just scratch their head. They have no idea. Is it choosing another country to export these people to, or is it just another technique?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, what you can do is staff up the Home Office so that when people file their asylum claims, they get processed, so you don't have a backlog. And if people aren't legitimate asylum seekers, send them back to where they came from. You could also find other countries, but to pick a country which is not worthy of any of this type of stuff, and then say Rwanda, just everybody hinging on to Rwanda, it ends up creating a problem, a total self-inflicted wound. This is an own goal of the government. That nobody should be so committed to this country, Rwanda, which has got all these issues.
Bill, can I ask you, just for people who don't know you, obviously your background as a financier and you've moved very much into the human rights arena after what happened to your lawyer, and you've set up the Magnitsky Acts, which have got global recognition around the world. You know, there are these rows within the Conservative Party. You've been talking about them all morning now, between the One Nations and then you've got the right-wingers within the party. The right-wingers all want the ECHR to be done with, for the UK to come out with. What's your view? Because there is a sensible argument that we could come out of it and write our own human rights laws in this country. This is an area close to your heart. What's your view on that?
It's an area very close to my heart. The European Court of Human Rights is a court which has saved many people I know from all sorts of terrible situations. The other main country that wants to disassociate itself from the European Court of Human Rights is Russia. It would be sort of odd for us to be considering ourselves a rule of law country and then basically saying, well, but actually we don't want to respect the law that everybody else respects. I think it's a bad idea. It adversely affects all sorts of very real political dissidents that I know, and I object to it.
But Bill, there's, you know, I hear what you're saying, totally understand what you're saying, but a lot of people listening and watching us this morning will say, but nobody respects the UK as an entity. No one respects the rights of people in Britain. We're being dumped so many hundreds of thousands of immigrants, migrants, illegal immigrants, take what you wish from all of that, and this country simply cannot sustain them. So what, my friend, is the answer?
Well, I mean, a total reform of the immigration system. I mean, there are other countries that do a good job with this. You know, Canada has a very great system where they say, we're going to choose the type of immigrants we want. We're going to attract the type of immigrants we want. They have a point system and it works. There are other countries that do the same thing. You know, just because we're doing a bad job doesn't mean that we should just hinge on to some bad policy to make the job even worse. I mean, look, the numbers don't reflect anything good in the last few years. And so just like many other parts of government, it needs to be reformed, but to hinge on to a disastrous policy is not the way to reform it.
Well, Bill, listening to you is the political commentator Alex Armstrong in the studio, and I'd just like to link him up with you, Alex.
Yeah, Bill, a lot of people would say that this bill, the Rwanda bill, is aimed at solving part of the stopping of the boats, which is really what this whole policy is about. How do you come to the conclusion that, what would you propose we do if there is no plan to send illegal immigrants to Rwanda? What's the alternative? What alternative do we have? You know, if there's not going to be a strong policy or a strong deterrence in place, how do we solve this problem? It's all very good and well saying that we're going to have a better immigration system than the one like Canada does, but there doesn't seem to be a solution that will appease the ECHR and the Supreme Court.
Well, I mean, there's probably 1,000 solutions that are different than sending people to Rwanda. Just by latching on to this one country and saying this is the only way to solve the problem is sort of childish. It's infantile. You can't just say that Rwanda is the only solution. Rwanda is not a country that deserves to be recognized as a safe country. It's not.
But if Rwanda has given guarantees to the British government through this piece of legislation that they won't deport migrants back to their home countries and face torture, what other guarantee can another sovereign nation give you? What's the alternative?
Well, you want a country whose guarantees you trust. Rwanda is a dictatorship. Rwanda doesn't, you know, Rwanda I wouldn't trust the guarantee that the paper was written on. It's like Russia guaranteeing. It's like Russia were to guarantee if you send us back prisoners, we won't mistreat them. I mean, there are many countries in the world where you can't trust dictators. Rwanda is one of them.
Bill, you were in the room when Robert Jenrick yesterday was saying that MPs weren't sent to Parliament to be concerned about their reputations on the gilded international circuit. Were you surprised to hear him say that, given he used to be, at least, a close ally of the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak?
Well, I mean, I think that politicians and government officials are accountable to the people who have elected them. But I think that also it's absolutely important for our international order for us to be thinking about how we're viewed outside the country as well. We live in a very large world with a lot of things going on, and we can't just be focused internally. We have to be focused externally as well.
Well, Bill, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us from Madrid this morning and giving us your take on all of that, describing Kagame as the Putin of Africa. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, and appreciate your input, Alex. Thank you very much indeed. Alex Armstrong here in the studio, the political commentator. You take my word from it. He's just there. Bye-bye. Oh, there you are. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. You look very festive in that shot there.
Yeah.
Yes,
I thought I'd go for a bit of festive
It's the tree,
tie.
not you, darling.
OK, all right. Like to say, I thought the time might have made it there, but there we go.
Festive blue tie.
Alex, just before we let you go, what did you make of Nigel Farage in the jungle, and how would you think does this enhance his reputation? Does this spread popularity for him, or what? What do you think?
Yeah, I think a third place is a good result. I think coming first might have been a bit divisive, for ITV. I think even viewers may have found that a bit divisive, actually. I think third place is a great result for Nigel. I think he came across very collected in the jungle. Maybe that's the politician in him actually coming out, who knows? But I think he did a really good job. I think he'll look back at the footage. I think he'll be horrified. I think I saw his eyes light up when he saw the pictures of him butt naked, taking a shower. So I think he might not like some of those moments, but generally I think he came across pretty well.
Alex, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Well, third was the position that he landed there. Let's go to our man on the Gold Coast with all of this. Who is on the Gold Coast?
We've got Alex Cherry.
The very man.
Adam Cherry. Oh.
Obviously, there were people there that took very different views on Brexit and other subjects. And I never raised one political debate in there, not one in the whole time I was there. Others did with me. But I think I managed to persuade them that we should respect the right of the other person to have a different point of view. And I had no screaming arguments.
No, there wasn't any
I mean,
screaming
Fred
arguments.
wanted to have screaming arguments. He kept sort of poking me with a stick. But no, we had proper debates. And I think in the end, I hope the other campmates respected my point of view. So no big fallouts. And yeah, if the public had put me number 3, I couldn't be more thrilled.
Well, let's hear now from our reporter on the Gold Coast, Adam Cherry.
Good morning, guys. This is it. It's the end of the road. The finale has happened and Nigel has come third. It's not a bad innings. That's 23 days in the jungle, which is probably just about enough for anybody. Tony Bellew comes in second, and Sam Thompson, the former Made in Chelsea and Celebrity Big Brother star, takes the crown. He's king of the jungle. We're actually stood just outside the hotel, the JW Marriott, where all the celebrities in the last couple of hours have returned to meet their friends and their family. They're greeted at the front of the hotel, raucous applause. As for last night, there was one more trial that Nigel had to get through before he was able to sign off on his I'm a Celeb experience. Take a look at this. This is the moment he was put in a coffin and had hundreds of snakes, not quite hundreds, but a lot of snakes dumped all over him. Take a look at this.
Oh, tremendous. A lot of people would like a snake to strangle me, I suppose.
What would you normally be doing on a Sunday?
Down the boozer.
Where are you going to in your head here now?
I'm thinking about things I've done in my life that were worse than this.
And go on.
Being stuck in that little aeroplane that crashed a few years ago when I was trapped in the wreckage.
Right.
Dealt with a few snakes in your time, though, I presume?
European Parliament was stuffed with them. Terrible lot.
Now, as for what's next, we are wrapping up here in the jungle, but there's a lot of speculation over what he might do when he's back in the UK. If you look at the newspapers, there are rumours that he might have signed some sort of pact with Boris Johnson. Perhaps he'll enter the House of Lords, join the Conservatives. Lots to mull over, but the good news is you'll be able to ask him directly what he plans next, because he'll be on this programme at about 8:30 this morning. So stick around, guys.
OK, let's take a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom as the time strikes 7:19. And the Qatari Prime Minister has warned the chances of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is narrowing as Israel continues with their bombardment of Gaza. It comes as the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the war is now in full swing.
Looking at the weather situation, fresh weather warnings issued. This is Storm Fergus. It's come over Ireland now into the West Country and central England. Yellow weather warnings and over 40 flood warnings have been issued across England and Scotland. Gale force winds likely to hit South Wales and areas around the Bristol Channel today.
The UK's tax level has increased to its highest rate on record, according to new data from the OECD. This comes as separate figures show the UK now faces the highest level of property taxes across the developed world.
Let's just get an update on that weather situation now. Let's go to Ellie Glaser for that.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glaser. It's been a bit of a drier start for most of us today, although it's quite a chilly start across parts of Scotland. We could see some icy stretches along southwestern parts of Scotland, but elsewhere, generally a much drier and brighter start to the new working week. Some showers pushing in across parts of northern and central England and along eastern coast of Scotland as well, but generally it'll be a dry afternoon for most of us with plenty of sunshine around. With some light winds as well, temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 12 degrees, so probably feeling a little more pleasant than we've seen over recent days. Through the rest of Monday, a change is on the way though. Low pressure sits out towards the west, slowly moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Monday and into Tuesday. This bringing some heavy rain and showers to Northern Ireland, Wales into Northern England and southwest England too through the early hours of Tuesday morning, and quite a cloudy night for most of us as that rain arrives. Blustery winds as well, helping to keep temperatures in the south perhaps even in the double figures, but a chilly night again across parts of Scotland. Through Tuesday morning, that rain continues to push its way north and eastwards, particularly heavy across parts of eastern Scotland through Tuesday morning, where we could see some localised flooding due to that very saturated ground. Further south, showers pushing in quite quickly from the southwest. These likely to turn very heavy in places, although there will be some sunnier breaks between those showers. Temperatures in the south around 10 to 12 degrees again, but a little closer to average across northern Scotland and parts of England.
Now, this is exciting. We have some great prizes to be won in our Great British Giveaway.
Great and British and giveaway. These are the three words you've got to remember there.
Yeah, including a brand new iPhone, shopping vouchers, and wait for it, a lot of cash. How much?
10,000 quid, and it could be yours. Here's all of the details that you will need before you enter.
It's the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win 3 amazing prizes that will get your new year off to a great start. First, there's a terrific £10,000 in cash to be won. Imagine what you can do with that. We'll also give you a tech update with the very latest iPhone 15 Pro Max, plus £500 worth of shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store. The retail therapy could be on us. For your chance to win the iPhone, the vouchers and £10,000 cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB01, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 5th of January. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
Good luck to you with that one there, and that'll run until January.
Yeah, £10,000 go a long way at this time of year as well, wouldn't it?
Yes,
really
but you'll not get it until January.
True.
So
still be useful. January's always a really difficult month to
you're
afford
right.
after all the expense of Christmas.
You've got nothing in your
yeah.
bank account. You've spent your wages
Not
already.
if you win this.
And all that.
Right,
That's
stay with us.
the-
In a moment, we're going to be debating celebrities. Should they basically stick to showbiz and stay out of politics? This, as we've got Gary Lineker wading back into politics again, and of course we've had Nigel Farage in the jungle. Stay with us for that.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like? I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I. So you want higher taxes? Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you. Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, as the Rwanda ruling continues to divide opinion, celebrities like Gary Lineker and Brian Cox have come under fire for signing a petition against government plans.
So, we got thinking about this. We think, is that a good thing? Does that help you relate to these issues? Or is it time that celebs like that leave politics to the politicians and away from celebrities? You could also argue the point that you made earlier, that people like Nigel Farage
being brought into the celebrity world.
They shouldn't be muddying the waters.
Well, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying they have now moved into that forum. Well, I wasn't necessarily saying they shouldn't.
I'm just saying.
Just to say.
Well, I'm saying maybe they shouldn't.
Okay.
You know, they can't have it every way. I'm just saying, just to be controversial there. Showbiz journalist Ellie Phillips. Ellie, what do you believe?
I think it's a really good thing when celebrities get involved in politics because I think a lot of people are disengaged in politics, and so if you can encourage people to become involved in it in any way, then that can't be a bad thing.
Okay, well,
now you can see Anna McGovern looking on there. And Anna, what do you believe?
Yes. I think 9 times out of 10, a lot of celebrities should just stay out of politics. I think, especially with the huge platforms that they have, they do have the
Can you put Anna in my ear, please? We can't hear her.
I've seen to actually misinform the public. And we've seen this, for example, during the COVID lockdowns. I think the hypocrisy as well. You had all the celebrities, as soon as we went into lockdown, jumping on Instagram Live and telling the public how great it is to stay at home and save lives, when you had massive families locked away in like tiny apartments, couldn't go outside, couldn't work, couldn't see loved ones. And I think you've also got celebrities, for example, like David Tennant, who were telling the public and his fans to support trans trans, children having trans surgery as well. And I think that could be incredibly dangerous, especially, for a child to make a choice that is very irreversible from such a young age. Issues like this, I think celebrities do have the power to, mislead the public, and it can be incredibly dangerous.
Mislead. Okay.
In many cases.
Ellie, here's what I think. I think that...
Can't hear you because the pen's been tapped so much.
I'm tapping the pen so loudly you can't hear.
Yeah.
You should get that checked up. Now, what was I going to say? I was going to say, Ellie, to you, I think people are tolerant of certain types of celebrities. For instance, if John Lennon was to, in his time, have made a political statement, people regard it as, oh, well, John Lennon's allowed to make a political statement because he's like that. He's trendy and, future thinking and whatever it is. But there'll be other celebs, there'll be stand-up comedians and whatever, and they'll not be allowed to have an opinion.
Yeah, and I don't think that anyone should be excluded from having an opinion on politics. That's what makes the world go round. That's what runs the world. And I think it is so important to have an opinion on those things. I don't think it's right to say, well, celebrities mislead. We know politicians mislead. So why is there a difference there between either or? I mean, it's been proven, we've got Boris Johnson, who lied in Parliament. So I think to say, well, celebrities mislead, I think it's more about opening up conversations. One of the reasons I love showbiz so much...
That's not what I said, to be fair.
When celebrities speak about any issue, whether it's political or personal, it makes other people feel that they can talk about it too and they can get involved. And I don't think that someone hearing a very extreme view from a celebrity is automatically going to make them believe that. It actually just sparks a conversation amongst them and their friends and their family, and that is a really positive...
Go on, Anna, you're itching to get in.
I absolutely agree in terms of the fact that we can't necessarily trust politicians either, and the COVID lockdowns and the pandemic absolutely proved that. And I actually think, there was a conversation earlier about Nigel Farage. He's had a huge influence, and actually I think he'd do a far better job at leading the Conservative Party than the current people that we have in power. I am saying that in many cases, celebrities don't have the power to relate to, the majority of us just living our lives. And I think for many of them, that actually their intention to get into activism, into politics, is in a place of, virtue signalling, self-benefit. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have a voice. I think that everyone should get educated. But I am saying that with the large-scale platforms that celebrities can command, it sometimes can do more harm than good for informing the public.
Yeah, I think there's a responsibility there to make sure that what you're putting out is fact-checked, if you will. But at the same time, I don't think it's right to say that, well, there are certain celebrities that can't relate to everyday people. When you look at who's in the Houses of Parliament and the people in there who've gone to Eton and Harrow, and, even Rishi Sunak himself has said he's never had a friend who's working class. Whereas actually a lot of celebrities, and the reason that they become famous is because they go through hardships. And then we love this rags to riches story, and you have a lot of them there who do relate. Look at Rebecca Ferguson. She's been involved in the creative industries, Independent Standards Authority. You've got Marcus Rashford, who made such a difference with free school meals. Joanna Lumley, who looks at, environmental issues. And even Martin Lewis, who helps people so much with finance.
What about the reverse? What about politicians going into the world of showbiz? We've seen Matt Hancock on all the different shows, now Nigel Farage. A lot of people would say, hang on, I wanted to watch the TV in the evening to escape politics, and now it's turned into a row everywhere I go. Yeah. What do you think about that? To both of you, but to you first of all, Ellie.
I'm not a big fan of politicians going into the world of celebrity and entertainment, because I think, you come with such a weight of belief and such a weight of votes that you made that impacted the country in such a huge way. I think it's hard to dissociate from that.
OK, Anna?
I think Matt Hancock, the damage that he did to the country was despicable, and the fact that he had a platform on a show like I'm a Celebrity to garner, support and sympathy for him, I genuinely believe is just such, a sham to the public and so disrespectful. And I think especially in those cases, I think for politicians, it is easier to hold them to account as elected officials, whereas celebrities, it's a lot more difficult because they gather a very large platform and they can, for the most part, say what they want to say and not necessarily face much repercussions for that, which is the difference between them and politicians. Though I will say as well that politicians are exactly the same. I genuinely believe it's very, very difficult, especially what we've seen in the last few years, to actually be able to trust anyone.
Okay.
Ladies, thank you both very much indeed. Very interesting that. Anna McGovern live there from Sydney, Australia, and Ellie Phillips live from GB News HQ. Thank you both very much indeed.
And also at GB News Towers, as we like to call it, the broadcaster Paul Coit here with all our sport. That's after this. Oh, no, we're doing it right now.
No, we're just doing it now.
There we go.
I'm ready for you. Yeah, by the way, you're familiar with, and I know Ellie will know this as well, the Whamageddon game. You familiar with that?
No.
Ellie doesn't know it either?
Whamageddon.
Whamageddon, it's Last Christmas by Wham.
Yeah.
And people play this game from the 1st of December right up to Christmas, and they try and avoid the song. And and people take it really seriously.
What do you mean you try and avoid the song?
So basically, if you wherever you are, if maybe the radio's on or someone's playing it, that means you're out of the game. So you try and keep
as soon
away.
As you hear it, you're contaminated by it.
Correct. And then you have to put on social media that you've been whammed or you've been hit by the Whamageddon, and you try and avoid it. And people actually take it very seriously. And I've spoken to people that are just going, oh, no, I've got to keep away because I've got to keep up. And they try and get through the whole of December without hearing Last Christmas by Wham.
What's that got to do with the sport?
I tell you exactly what it's got to do with the sport. There is a link there somewhere. So yesterday, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the DJ there, Kieran, his name is Kieran, played...
Is he a mate of yours?
Played Last Christmas by Wham. He was just playing songs. Anyway, social media's gone crazy. He's wiped out 62,000 people out of the game. Yeah, in one go, because they're like... It's Last Christmas by Wham. I've been Whamageddoned, and there is a game. And
there you go.
ask around, people take it very seriously.
I wouldn't want to play that game. I like Last Christmas.
Well, so do I. I like it too. So maybe
a better version would be the drinking version, where every time you hear it, you down a shot.
Oh, you two take the big drunk. OK, fine. That says a lot, doesn't it? So that's the game. So it will turn into a sport, and people are getting very, very upset about it when they hear it.
So why are they getting upset? Their team won convincingly against Newcastle yesterday.
They might have been Newcastle fans. No, but anybody was... you'd think that, wouldn't you? Think, oh, well, I don't matter. You know, Spurs have managed to beat Newcastle 4-1 yesterday. Been magnificent. But I've heard Wham Last Christmas. It's ruined my day.
Okay.
Well, it's ruined my Christmas.
So from one song to another, my Sharona...
Yes, my
Girona.
My Girona. That's a great song, that is.
Yeah. Yes.
You're familiar with it? You know that one? My Girona. So that's, so that, hopefully that's what they sing. Girona is a very small town in Spain, in the North Catalan area.
Sounds nice.
It is.
Why? What about it?
Just sounds like it is nice.
It's small.
Game of Thrones, they had Game of Thrones that was filmed there. They sell outside the stadium paella, the huge paella sandwiches.
So civilised.
Paella sandwich?
They do it as a sandwich.
OK, it's gone downhill from... Exactly. Extra carbs, as if the rice wasn't enough.
Yeah, he's going,
slap it between...
Nice. Is that a sandwich? There's a new debate coming out. So anyway...
The team.
But the team are unbelievable. Now, the team were founded in 1930, and they've only spent 4 years in La Liga, which is the top, which is just pretty much the Premier League. But at the moment, they went up a couple of years ago. They came 10th last year. It's almost like people say doing a Leicester after what Leicester did in the Premier League a couple of years ago. But they're tearing it up. And people are looking at Girona and thinking, how is this happening? Because they're beating everybody. And they managed to go to Barcelona last night, and they beat them 4-2.
But my friend, sorry, and I'm not sure about this, but you may be able to correct me or not.
Yes, sir.
Are they owned by the same owners as Manchester City?
Now, yes, they are. But it doesn't necessarily mean that loads and loads of money, because they can only spend 52 million euros according to La Liga rules.
Right.
So they're only like the 14th highest spending team in Spain.
Well, stupid rules, aren't they?
Well, I don't make the rules, just telling you what the rules are.
I'm just saying, well, how are they expected to compete with, say, the Manchester Cities of this world?
But that's the thing. That's the whole story. They are. And they're above Barcelona, they're above Atletico Madrid, they're above Real Madrid, and people are wondering whether they can go all the way and actually win La Liga.
But if they do win La Liga and qualify for the Champions League, the point I'm getting to is they can't play in the Champions League according to UEFA and FIFA rules on ownership because they will be owned by the same team as Manchester City, and two teams can't play in the same tournament.
If they're owned by the same owners. Now, there was a loophole in that a few years ago, and that was Red Bull, who own Leipzig and Salzburg, although they say, oh, we don't actually own, but they're major shareholders.
Yeah.
They managed to get away with it. So we know what Manchester City and lawyers are like, and they do happen to have very good lawyers. Should it happen, well, we'll have to see at the end of the season. But as you say, there are rules that say an owner, if you have a group of clubs and you're the major shareholder in two clubs, only one of them can actually play in the Champions League. But the way football is, you know, something like that's going to change. But at the moment, it's the little guy that's doing really well. And it's
I
a
love
great
that
story.
sort of story.
And hopefully they're going to play My Sharona or My Girona and not play Last Christmas there, because then everybody will be happy.
See you again, 20
Whamageddon.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Coity. Right, stay with us. Still to come, the ramifications of Martin Bashir's 1995 Panorama interview with the late
how is he
Princess
getting
Diana
away with it?
is continuing.
Who's going to bring Bashir to book? And that's going to be one of the stories that we've got in the paper review next.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious?
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Akua, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's on your teeth.
It's on your teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
situation, we were just talking before the break about celebrities, when they should stick their nose into the public arena in terms of opinions and political opinions. Going through that story and more for us today, Dawn Neesom and Freddie Gray. Dawn, for you, so there's a lot of, I think it was the front page of the Mail, put a sock in it, Lineker.
It says pretty much what it does on the tin today, the Daily Mail. This is our Gary Lineker, who has once again, Gary Lineker, the highly paid BBC presenter, so paid for by us, has opened his gob again and got involved in a political stunt. Now, this is a letter that has been signed by lots of lovies: Brian Cox, Juliet Stevenson, David Morrissey, Kaiser Chiefs musician Simon Ricks, saying that the Rwanda policy is inhumane, won't work, and we should stop it straight away. So interfering in government policy, basically. No matter what we think of it, it doesn't actually matter.
Was he not warned about this by the BBC before? I thought there was an agreement.
Yes, he has been. And funny enough, a middle-aged woman called Carol Vorderman was sacked for having a political opinion. However, the middle-aged man, highly paid, 1.3 million, is OK. So Gary has signed this letter adding that Britain's refugee system, ever more uncaring, chaotic and costly. But my favourite quote, she says, desperately searching for it, is where he says, we need a new system that reflects the will of the British people. Well, Gary is not only having a political opinion, which he's supposedly not meant to do because of his BBC contract, is also thinking he's speaking for the British people.
Yeah, although, to be fair, the BBC have got very strict guidelines on this, and they've been interrogated on this, and they would say that because he's in the world of sport, it is entirely different from if he was working for BBC News.
For BBC News, but that is such a fine line, isn't it? I mean, Carol Vorderman was actually working for a music channel, BBC Wales. That wasn't news.
Well, it's kind of current affairs, isn't it?
Well,
there's sort of local news issues in there, a bit more so than in Match of the Day.
I think he's seeking a sort of martyrdom situation, isn't he? He wants to... He's
wants to be sacked.
I think he's well, because he's making so much money from podcasts now. He runs this very successful podcast business. I think, 1.3 million is not that much to Gary Lineker. But, I also think he probably wants to go into politics. Do you remember after Brexit, there was talk of a political party called Centre Forward that he would be in charge of. I think he toys with the idea of politics because he's quite a vain man. And vain men are drawn to politics.
He does have the ego for it. Was that really a thing? I thought the centre forward thing was a nightmare I'd had once, but that was actually really a thing, wasn't it?
That was really a thing. I think it was going to be Rachel Johnson and Gary Lineker, which is an extraordinary...
And then, does your flesh creep, Dawn, as soon as somebody from the entertainment world starts making political pronouncements?
No.
No?
No, it doesn't, Eamonn, because I think, look, we're all human beings. No matter what you do for a living, you're just a human being, right? You are entitled to your political opinion. The problem I have is when I'm paying their wages. So it's the BBC I have an issue with. Now, if Gary... look, I think Gary Lineker is a brilliant sports broadcaster. I love listening to him. I think he's fantastic. However, I don't want him telling me how I think on anything when I'm paying his wages. Just stick to your day job.
No, but when you take your argument, what you're really saying is, and think about it, you don't want to hear their opinions on anything because it's very divisive. It's a high-risk strategy for many celeb. It's divisive. It can affect your likeability.
Your income.
And bad for the brand, or could be bad for the brand. As soon as you get divisive with your audience and you're saying, you can only like me, you can only laugh at my jokes if you think this way.
You know what, the problem I have with this is the people that have signed this letter are very, very lovey. They are very, as Freddie's just said, egotistical, telling ordinary working people what they think and what's best for them. And that, I think, increasingly, maybe because of social media, we are getting that there. People who have no idea what it's actually like in the real world, dictating that, it's like, the whole Nigel Farage thing in the jungle, right? Okay? The amount of people going, oh, what are you doing voting for Nigel Farage? That just obviously means you're too stupid to have a vote on anything. And it's that attitude. How dare you? I don't care what you think of Nigel.
Everything's too divisive. I think if you're in the public eye, just keep your mouth shut.
Well, yeah.
I do. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't have the strength to do it and take the criticism. I don't really care enough about most things to...
I'd vote for you, Eamonn.
Well, yeah.
But a new centre-forward party.
I'll tell you what, we stay with the BBC And this Martin Bashir business. Now, Freddie, this guy, when I look at what he has done, why he isn't in jail, I really don't know. And the bad name is given to the BBC, to journalism in general, and it seems to be he can plead, oh, I feel a bit off today, don't confront me with any of this, and he gets a bye ball on everything. So, bring us up to date.
Well, so the Earl Spencer, who was, of course, involved in the whole controversy around the Bashir interview, because he was implicated in, the idea that he was tricked, he was part of Bashir's trickery to get this interview. And we know that Bashir lied and manipulated people to get interviews. He did it with other big interviews too, Michael Jackson.
I mean, lied, but when you think about it, he falsified bank statements,
Yes.
He completely made up the transactions
It was
in
the
them.
dirtiest kind of journalism imaginable.
Yeah.
If you
It's not
if you saw it
journalism. It's not journalism.
No, it's not journalism.
It's fraud.
No. It's fraud. It's what people who really hate tabloids think the tabloids do, but actually the BBC seem to have slightly gone along with it, and as Earl Spencer said, they've covered up the cover-up. So they're now not giving over all these emails that would reveal, we think, senior members of the BBC possibly knowing about all this stuff and just going along with it, going along with the trickery and the fraud. It's a very ugly business. I just found it funny that he was brought back briefly as religious. They thought, he was such a wrong... What
what are we
going to do?
We can atone for his sins here.
Thought for the day with Martin Bashir. Here's how to fraud someone.
One of the worst things I think Bashir did was he made Diana so paranoid about who was around her that she actually got rid of her security team. And because of that, she ended up in Paris with one security guard, no royal protection officers, because she was paranoid they were sort of like working for her husband, King Charles is in our... That's why she was on her own and vulnerable. Now, obviously, you can't go as far as say that was the reason for the accident. That was a horrible tragedy. We all know that. But the fact that he made her so paranoid, I think is appalling. And you can understand the boys, William and Harry, not thinking he should have any airtime, any publicity, and be really held to task on this one.
Yeah, so the idea is that the theory is that the BBC were concocting some sort of protection for Bashir. What sort of story will we come up with? Will we say his mental health is suffering or whatever? That's the idea, and until they release these emails, we'll not know what this actually was.
So I think these emails relate to the Dyson inquiry, which happened 3 years ago, and found that Bashir the BBC had not behaved properly. But in the course of that inquiry, it's thought there were more emails that the BBC is unwilling to release because they will show more cover-up. And this is what Earl Spencer wants to get at. We will see. I suspect the BBC will manage to make it all go away for a little bit longer.
Well, I just can't believe he's done what he's done and nothing happens as a result. No one seems to be too bothered with it.
If senior people at the BBC also involved, I think they would have thrown him to the wolves by now. So that's, I think, what Earl Spencer's getting at.
Okay. Let's talk about fatty foods. Using them to comfort eat during times of stress can actually do more harm than good. I don't think people were comfort eating because they thought it was going to help them. It just made them feel better. Surely, Freddie, this is in The Guardian
This
today.
is one of those don't eat fatty foods, let's use any peg for it to make this story work. I think, yes, surprise, surprise, people when they're stressed tend to eat badly. I think we all do, I do, certainly. And this actually makes your health worse than if you ate well when you were stressed.
Well, there's two types of people. Yeah, there's two types of people. People who under stress can't eat and they're put off their food when they're upset or whatever, they're tearful, somebody's died, they don't want to eat. Or there's people who are upset and depressed and then they eat to make themselves feel better. Sadly, they're not eating options.
Or to punish themselves.
Oh, right, yeah, self-flagellation.
Yes, I think I self-flagellate. Yes, I do.
You self-flagellate
myself
with
for that
chocolate
donut.
cakes.
Yes.
That's an interesting thought process I'm having there, Eamonn Holmes.
OK, right, OK. Guys, thank you both very much indeed. The guys will be back in about 40 minutes' time with more stories that are making the headlines. Right now, let's get an update on the weather situation. There's a lot of wind and a lot of rain about. Ellie Glaser.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's been a bit of a drier start for most of us today, although quite a chilly start across parts of Scotland. We could see some icy stretches along southwestern parts of Scotland, but elsewhere, generally a much drier and brighter start to the new working week. Some showers pushing in across parts of northern and central England and along eastern coast of Scotland as well, but generally it'll be a dry afternoon for most of us with plenty of sunshine around. With some light winds as well, temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 12 degrees, so probably feeling a little more pleasant than we've seen over recent days. Through the rest of Monday, a change is on the way though. Low pressure sits out towards the west, slowly moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Monday and into Tuesday. This bringing some heavy rain and showers to Northern Ireland, Wales into Northern England and southwest England too through the early hours of Tuesday morning, and quite a cloudy night for most of us as that rain arrives. Blustery winds as well, helping to keep temperatures in the south perhaps even in the double figures, but a chilly night again across parts of Scotland. Through Tuesday morning, that rain continues to push its way north and eastwards, particularly heavy across parts of eastern Scotland through Tuesday morning, where we could see some localised flooding due to that very saturated ground. Further south, showers pushing in quite quickly from the southwest. These likely to turn very heavy in places, although there will be some sunnier breaks between those showers. Temperatures in the south around 10 to 12 degrees again, but a little closer to average across northern Scotland and parts of England.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, still to come, a busy day for the Prime Minister and a very busy hour ahead for us. Stay tuned. We've got everything from possible rebellions, as in the Conservative Party. We're speaking to the government. We've got Grant Shapps on as well. We're also talking about the COVID inquiry. That's all kicking off at 10 o'clock with the Prime Minister there. And we're going to be speaking to Nigel Farage himself, fresh out of the jungle. That's at 8:30, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a moment.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Eight o'clock, Monday the 11th of December, breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
A very good morning to you. You are very welcome. Here's what's leading our news this morning. A rebellion is brewing over the Prime Minister's Rwanda policy as backbench Tory MPs on the left and the right are weighing up their support for the bill. Christopher Hope has the latest for us from Westminster.
Rishi Sunak is in the COVID inquiry all day, but it's behind me in Parliament where his future will be decided. More soon.
OK. Prime Minister's also in the COVID spotlight today. COVID inquiry set to quiz the PM over his Eat Out to Help Out scheme during the pandemic.
It's all over for Nigel Farage in the jungle. He made it into the final of I'm a Celebrity last night. He came third, and we'll be speaking to him in half an hour's time right here on the programme. Plus, we'll be speaking to former winner Christopher Biggins.
And for the latest weather forecast, Ellie Glazer, let's go to her.
Despite a drier and brighter start for many of us this morning, there's further wet and windy weather on the way. Join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
Lots of you getting in touch this morning. Stress causes eating, and then eating too much causes stress. Then when Christmas is finished, you really feel stressed about how to get the pounds off again. And then when you're on a diet and you're hungry, that causes stress. Life is one big stress.
One big
agree
one.
With you, John.
And the email address for stress or anything else, gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet at gbnews. So, top story today, busy day for the Prime Minister. He's facing a rebellion from Conservative MPs over his latest Rwanda bill. A vote on that takes place tomorrow.
Yes, there's a collection of Tory MPs from the right of the party. They formed what they call a Star Chamber. It's a gathering of 4 backbench groups. They're due to decide today whether or not they can put their support behind the Prime Minister's latest Rwanda policy.
While on the more moderate side of the Conservatives, around 100 MPs within the One Nation group will also meet to discuss their support for the Rwanda plan.
However, it will be COVID preoccupying most of the Prime Minister's day. 10:30, he'll be in the dock, if you like, giving evidence at the COVID inquiry in his capacity as a former Chancellor.
Let's go to our political editor, Christopher Hope, with this one. Christopher is in Westminster for us today. And goodness me, it's going to be a really busy, pressurised Christmas for the PM, isn't it?
That's right. I think it's the most difficult 24 hours in his time as Prime Minister. On the one hand, he's at the COVID inquiry in Paddington, defending his role as Chancellor, the famous Eat Out to Help Out policy in that August period back in 2020, I think it was, or 21 from memory, when he tried to get us all to go out into restaurants and support restaurants in the COVID pandemic. But of course, that was blamed by some for fueling cases of COVID and not helping at all. That's looking backwards, almost curating his record as Chancellor. But looking forward, he's in some real jeopardy. We've got this vote tomorrow, the second reading vote on his Rwanda plan to take migrants who arrive illegally on the south coast back to Rwanda to be processed. He's got a bill which will go through Parliament, he hopes, to make sure that any concerns of the courts will be allayed by that. But before he gets there, he's got to convince his own party to support it. On one side, he's got the right-wing Tory MPs, the European Research Group of Tory MPs, the Common Sense Group, other groups who are concerned about it. It doesn't go far enough, want him to toughen up the language. On the left of the party, he's got the One Nation caucus. That's about a third of the party in the moderate wing of the party. They're worried about anything that moves too far away from European courts. Down that middle route, the PM must walk is very hard. We'll hear from the right-wing groups around lunchtime and the left-wing group in the evening, and how that plays out will set the course for a very big day tomorrow. The reason why they're deciding today, of course, Isabel and Eamonn, is because they want to negotiate with the whips. So the idea is the right wing, the ERG group, come out at lunchtime, say what their plan is, a full 36 hours before the vote takes place tomorrow night. And that's for a reason, because they want to be able to start talking to the whips and say, well, we're not happy about this, this and this. Unless you move on that and allow us to amend it when it comes back to Parliament in the new year, we will vote against it. The last time the government lost a vote at second reading was, just checking notes, 1986. It will be historic if he loses this vote tomorrow.
Would be historic, but would it be fatal for him as leader? I mean, lots of talk about whether or not he's already lost his authority. You sounding sympathetic there that he's trying to walk a difficult path between, you know, rock and a hard place, essentially. Do you sense that actually, in many ways, the Conservative Party is agitating for some sort of leadership contest? I mean, I can't believe I'm saying these words, but it feels like we're almost in a place where there could be no agreement. Or at least some people are saying if he loses tomorrow, maybe a general election.
Both those are possible, Isabel. I'm sorry to disabuse you. I mean, they are both possible. There was a poll from Sir John Curtis, the Strathclyde University polling guru who normally gets elections right, saying the Tories are on course to win just 130 seats at the next election. They're still 23 points behind in the polls. They're worse than they were when Mrs Sunak became Prime Minister. It's a very real possibility, I think, that they are facing an election oblivion, according to the polls at the moment, and Tory MPs worrying about their future careers as much as their own party will be wondering, well, what can we do about that? Who can we bring in? Should we have a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister? I mean, if the government loses tomorrow in the Commons, Labour will call a vote of confidence in the government, which the Tory party will win. But then aside from that, there's then issues about the actual personal leadership of the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, which I think he could face a vote of no confidence early in the new year, if only to try, as the right would see it, to reset his priorities towards where they want to be on tax cuts and stronger on immigration and facing down the European courts. The Tory right think if you take that position, you've got a chance to beat Labour.
Christopher, could I ask you a question about I'm a Celebrity? Nigel Farage didn't win, but he came in third last night on the show. Was there really much talk about it around Westminster? Do you think it has done him any good being on the programme?
I think it has. I mean, despite his hairy legs, I think it has done him a lot of good, really. I think it has allowed people to see a different side to Nigel Farage. He's not this kind of agitator. He's the kind of colleague that we know from the channel, isn't he? He listens, wants to understand, wants to engage, doesn't hector like I think his critics might see. Often his critics have shut their mind to Nigel Farage, and this was a chance, I think, for Farage to open himself up, I think, to a new audience. That was certainly his intention. To get to third, to get to the final, is exactly what he wanted to do. I've been trying to work out, Eamonn and Isabel, what he's missed. Well, he's missed the appointment of David Cameron as Foreign Secretary, so make sure you ask him that at 8:30. What do you make about your old opponent, Cameron, back in charge? He's missed those disastrous net migration figures, record numbers here in 2022. I think he may have missed even the autumn statement when they started cutting taxes. The party is trying to think it should move back towards where he sits in politics, and he's emerging. I think Tories on the right do think that he's going to emerge from the jungle as this kind of soothsayer, this sort of John the Baptist figure, if you like, to say that way for the Tories. Will you follow me? I did ask the Prime Minister whether he thought that Farage could rejoin the party, and again he said we're a broad church.
It wasn't a no.
Back in October to me at the party conference. wasn't a no. Ask him that as well, Isabel. Back to you.
It's interesting. I was doing the same thing, scratching my head, thinking, how long's he been there? What's he missed? So if he missed Lord Cameron going in, he's also missed Suella Braverman being sacked. So these are all things we can get his thoughts on when we speak to him in around 20 minutes' time. But for now, Christopher, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's now bring in Richard Tice, the leader of Reform UK, of which Nigel Farage is your president, is he?
Honorary president.
Honorary president.
And it's extraordinary. He's missed like a year's worth of politics in about 4 weeks. Quite remarkable, but he'll catch up pretty fast.
And what do you think the jungle has done for him, if anything?
He did brilliantly. I mean, being a finalist, I think hopefully he's enjoyed it. I suspect he might have lost a little bit of weight. He'll be looking forward to a really good meal and a bottle of claret. But it was absolutely brilliantly. He dealt with the snakes remarkably well. Great experience, it felt to me, that he had. But look, I think he'll be astonished at the way the government, the Tory party, is playing their own sort of Bush Tucker trial, trying to eat each other in their own sort of I'm a celebrity game. Quite remarkable.
We've spoken about this before. I mean, his critics and I suppose cynics will say third isn't really what he wanted to do. Same place as Matt Hancock, and no one's talking about him making a big political comeback.
I think they're chalk and cheese. Come on. Nigel will be, when he sees and hears what's gone on, he'll be absolutely fuming. You'll hear from him a bit later. He'll want to take a little bit of time just to really digest the implications of it all, the timing, and he'll have had a lot of time to think about where he wants to really shape and influence. But as far as I'm concerned, the more help, the better, because, frankly, the country needs it.
And what about this chatter of a Boris-Farage pact? I mean, we've been here before. It didn't work out well for Nigel.
It sells newspapers, but it's complete nonsense.
OK, all right.
So Nigel Farage coming in third. He didn't make it as king of the jungle, but our next guest did in,
2007.
And I'm doing the maths, Isabel. Yeah,
right.
7, so that would be...
years ago.
Oh, I don't know, anyway, a long time ago. 2007, as Isabel said. Biggins, good morning to you. Biggins, you're in Southampton because...
Good morning, Isabel.
Yeah, some of the rewards for winning the jungle is a tour in pantomime. And there you are. You're in Southampton. And it's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Who are you in that? Are you one of the dwarfs?
Yeah, I'm playing all 7. No, I'm playing the man in the mirror, and I'm loving it. We're having an incredible time down here. But didn't he do well last night? I mean, I was thrilled for Nigel. I mean, Nigel has been a revelation, I think, all the way through this. And I think to get to third place was fantastic, and he must have been thrilled. And he was just wonderful. I mean, what he did when he was buried with those snakes, I mean, was just unbelievable. The strength he had was marvellous. I mean, he has and he's done terribly well in so many ways, I think, in the jungle. You know, he's come across as we know him, as a very nice man, and he's charming and really terrific. And I think he's done himself a lot of good by going in there.
How could he have done better, Biggins? Anything that you look back on his performance and think he missed this or he should have done that?
No, I think the main reason he came third was he was a politician. I mean, there's nothing, no looking back on it, that is the problem. And I think to get to third as a politician is amazing. But the public, are fed up with politicians. I mean, they think they're all a load of snakes getting round people in their coffins, and it's not good. I mean, we're in a very bad time, unfortunately.
And Biggins, what was the first thing that you wanted to do as soon as you got out of the jungle? I'm trying to imagine what Mr. Farage's rider list was waiting for him at the end of the bridge.
Well, first thing, I had a bath.
Oh, lovely.
And that was fantastic. A nice soapy bath, really wonderful. And then I wanted to have breakfast. I mean, even though we had a big meal the night before, you just needed to have crispy bacon and eggs and everything. It was just wonderful.
Did you lose weight when you were in there?
2 stone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's a wonderful bath.
It's like I was going to say fat camp. That's the wrong phrase, but it's a good diet. It's like a sort of what would you call it? I don't know. People go on these camps to lose lots of weight. It's a good way of doing it.
Oh, it really is. It really is. If you can get on board, get there and lose weight, it's fantastic. It really is.
What can he do, Biggins, that, what has he gained from the jungle that he can put to good political use now? Likeability, a different image? What do you think?
Well, I think his image has changed. I think, he was perhaps known as a bit of a joke in politics and sort of far out there. And I think now people see that there is a real man there. And I think that's what he's done, as opposed to last year when Nick proved to be not a real man. I mean, Nick was just awful, I thought. But, there was so much he gave to the show and really improved his image enormously. I mean, I think, if he was in a position to be elected somewhere along the line, he would win it now. I think he really would.
Yeah. And by Nick, you mean Matt, I presume.
Oh, did I say Nick? I'm sorry, it's very early. Matt, yeah.
Yes, yeah, just want to bring in Richard Tice here again. Farage has got a situation whereby maybe an audience that would not have thought about him, would not have studied him in a way, got a chance to get to know him.
Seeing the personal side. I mean,
absolutely,
I've never seen his daughter or his partner before.
That's right, and that's why he went in. He said he wanted to reach out to a younger audience who weren't engaged with politics, and I think they will have seen someone who's very thoughtful, very focused on getting stuff done, keeping the camp clean and organised, and they'll have thought, yeah, here's a serious guy and a decent personality. I think he's done him huge amounts of positive good, and I think he'll be delighted with his progress.
Will you be there next year? Lining up to
I'm not sure that's for me as well, definitely not.
All right, thank you very much,
Money
Richard
talks.
Tice. Yeah, that's true, $1.5 million. Right, let's get a little update on the forecast. It's been a really blustery and wet weekend. What's in store this week? Ellie Glazier has all the details.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's been a bit of a drier start for most of us today, although quite a chilly start across parts of Scotland. We could see some icy stretches along southwestern parts of Scotland, but elsewhere, generally a much drier and brighter start to the new working week. Some showers pushing in across parts of northern and central England and along eastern coast of Scotland as well, but generally it'll be a dry afternoon for most of us with plenty of sunshine around. With some light winds as well, temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 12 degrees, so probably feeling a little more pleasant than we've seen over recent days. Through the rest of Monday, a change is on the way though. Low pressure sits out towards the west, slowly moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Monday and into Tuesday. This bringing some heavy rain and showers to Northern Ireland, Wales into Northern England and southwest England too through the early hours of Tuesday morning, and quite a cloudy night for most of us as that rain arrives. Blustery winds as well, helping to keep temperatures in the south perhaps even in the double figures, but a chilly night again across parts of Scotland. Through Tuesday morning, that rain continues to push its way north and eastwards, particularly heavy across parts of eastern Scotland through Tuesday morning, where we could see some localised flooding due to that very saturated ground. Further south, showers pushing in quite quickly from the southwest. These likely to turn very heavy in places, although there will be some sunnier breaks between those showers. Temperatures in the south around 10 to 12 degrees again, but a little closer to average across northern Scotland and parts of England.
Right, and the really big news today is our giveaway, this new effort in which we will give away £10,000 cash, brand new tech and shopping vouchers. You heard me correctly.
Yes, and this is how you can do it. You could be the first ever winner of our first ever Great British Giveaway. All the details on how to make that happen right here.
This week, we're launching the Great British Giveaway, your chance to grab some amazing prizes and start your new year the right way. You could win an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Imagine having all of that extra cash in your bank account. We'll also bring you bang up to date with the very latest iPhone 15 Pro Max. And we'll give you £500 worth of shopping vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. For your chance to win the iPhone, the vouchers and £10,000 cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB01, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 5th of January. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
Ooh, that would be good, wouldn't it? January's always so bleak. Everybody's skint after Christmas. 10 grand, an iPhone and some shopping vouchers would go down a treat. Make sure you're in it. You can only win it if you're in it.
Well, 8 on a Monday morning could be bleak, but not if you have Paul Coyte ready to go through the sport next.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train. Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Akua, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's
on your teeth. It's on your teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What a fixture list it was in the Premier League over the weekend. Let's go to Paul Coyte now. Some big shocks there, it has to be said. Some big results.
Yeah, there were some big results. Everton beating Chelsea 2-0. You'd probably... See, that's the thing with Chelsea, you know, they spent £1 billion. £1 billion. Whereas Everton, they've been buying in players. Everton have been having to get rid of players because of this whole FFP situation. And they've lost 10 points, so they've had 10 points taken off. But they're fighting back, you know, they've got a good result against Newcastle in the week, and now Chelsea they go and beat 2-0. They're 17th now with 13 points with that 10-point deduction. And Mauricio Pochettino is apparently saying that he thinks that Chelsea need to spend a little bit more, more money.
Really?
$1 billion. Maybe you need to spend 2 or 3 billion. Who knows?
But I think he's getting good value for money at the moment.
It really isn't. So the numbers aren't good, you know.
You know, Everton's first game after that points deduction was against Man U. They were at home.
Yeah.
And I thought an amazing Manchester United performance against them because Everton were so fired up. So then Man United, they lose to Newcastle. They beat Chelsea. Great win. Then they get this. I thought it was unbelievable on Saturday against Bournemouth to lose 3-0, and it should have probably been 4-0.
Yeah.
At home. Unbelievable.
It's unforgivable, isn't it, really, from Manchester United side? And do you remember after the Chelsea game, we did say this, that, OK, there's the reaction because it was all down to Erik ten Hag and he was being called out, and it was like, well, OK, our back's against the wall, everybody fights for the club, fights for the manager. And I said, well, that's all right. But then what happens after that? What happens in the next game, And it's like, OK, boys, that's it, we've done our bit, so we don't have to bother anymore. And it's just not good enough. So Man United fans, like yourself, not going to be happy.
I'm not in favour of changing the manager at a whim, whatever it is, but I think his job has got to seriously be in doubt now to lose to Bournemouth at home by such a margin.
And it's that manager thing. It's how you deal with players. Very important that you know what you're doing as far as football is concerned, but these days, if you're not a man manager, if you're not good with the players personally,
psychologists,
you're screwed. You don't stand a hope because they will turn against you. Fulham thrashed West Ham 5-0, because I feel bad for Dawn.
Really?
Because it's her birthday today.
That's another big win for Fulham.
Yeah, it serves them right for beating Spurs 2-1. That's all I can say. I'm sorry, but there you go. Luton, they went one up against Man City, so again, close. But not quite there.
But no cigar.
No cigar.
You know, they're losing a lot of games just by the odd goal.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for them. Their situation will be really tough.
I think it will be. And finally, Spurs 4, Newcastle 1. Great win for Tottenham. But I did mention this a little bit earlier. This is this respect. I know the respect thing drives you crazy, doesn't it?
It drives me crazy. I just think grow up.
Yeah.
Now, that Son should put in his penalty in there, whatever. But the respect thing we're talking about, to fill us in there.
Yeah, it's Guillermo Vicario, who's the goalkeeper of Spurs. And it was Callum Wilson. So as Callum Wilson runs past, he misses a chance. Vicario looks at him, sticks his tongue out, like that. It was all childish stuff. So Callum Wilson then afterwards is going, well, I find it disrespectful. And it's like, come on. But the irony is that Callum Wilson had been quite disrespectful towards Richarlison, who obviously is a Spurs striker, and so I wonder whether this has got a lot to do with that. When there was a podcast a couple of months ago where he was with Mikel Antonio, and they were both joking about how Richarlison is that he takes his shirt off, that he's been injured more, and he's got more yellow cards than he has goals. So, you know, it works both ways, and respect, for crying out loud.
Well, if you stick your tongue out at me, I'm going to report you.
Are you really?
Don't worry, though. You've got plenty of defence, because, Eamonn sticks his tongue out all the time. So.
Do you think my tongue pops out?
Yeah. You're
Is
definitely
it a
a tongue
purposeful
sticker outer more than anyone I'd know. Yeah. But you don't normally do it out of disrespect. You normally do it to say, cheer up. You do it more as a, let's find the ridiculous in this moment.
But people stick their tongue out, don't they, when they're concentrating? That's a
No,
weird
he
way,
doesn't do that. He does it more as
No, my granddaughter stuck her tongue out at me the other day, and I stuck my tongue back, but
didn't go down well.
No, the photograph only showed me with my tongue out, not her.
Right,
but
okay.
she started it.
Are you sure she started it?
It was disrespectful.
I don't think there's any evidence. I think it was probably you started it, sir.
Disrespecting you already.
Honestly.
Anyway, thank you, Paul. Thank you. It's been a great morning with you. Thank you very much indeed.
We're going to have all the latest from the jungle. Nigel Farage is out.
Put it away, man. Put it away.
We're getting the snakes after that. We're talking about the jungle. Listen, we'll also be speaking to the Defence Secretary, Grant Shapps. He's coming up in the next half an hour as well, so don't go anywhere.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affects us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're looking forward to speaking to Nigel Farage very, very shortly, finishing third on I'm a Celebrity last night. We've got Don Neesom and Freddie Gray here with their thoughts on this. So it's the bronze medal, guys. What do you think?
Well, deserved bronze medal as well, I thought. I thought he came across as very human. He was incredibly calm doing some of the awful trials. He had to be sort of like locked in a tank full of snakes last night, was his final trial. And I thought he did very well. And I think people were annoyed that they saw a human side. I particularly like the bit where he was reunited with his daughter in the jungle. And people don't want to see him as a human being, as a dad. And I thought he did very, very well.
I think it's been magically timed to coincide with Rishi's disastrous week that's coming up.
Yes, couldn't be any worse, really.
And people are just, thinking, what's he going to do now?
Well, Freddie, we'll come back to you and to Dawn in just a moment because we are
find out what he's going to do next.
Himself.
Yeah. So you say, hello, good morning. Not king of the jungle, but runner-up, third place, bronze medalist.
We don't recognise you in a suit.
Bronze medalist. Look how clean he is.
Very smart.
Look. Hello, Nigel. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you feeling? Are you washed? Are you fed? Are you watered?
Looks very clean.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've had a wash and a shave and I've put some normal clothes on. I'm already beginning to miss the sounds of the jungle. The crickets, the kookaburra, the cuckoos, the owls, the howls of creatures we've never heard from. I mean, to be honest, I spent 23 nights in there and I loved every single minute of it. It's been the most unbelievable experience and I would not for one moment say that I regret a single moment of it. Great to be out, but I really had a fantastic time.
We spoke to Biggins a few moments ago, who said for politicians it's really, really hard, if not impossible, to win. So coming third is probably the best any politician really could hope for. Do you feel disappointed, or do you feel like third is actually, you know, quite an achievement?
Do you know what? I mean, look, if you'd said to me before this started that I'd make the final, I'd go for the final bush tucker trial, I'd be buried underground with 20 snakes all over me, that I come out with, I hope, some degree of dignity, and come third, I'd have bitten your arm off. So I'm delighted with the way that it turned out, thrilled that I got through to the last round, and I was the outsider. The other 11 people that went in there were either professional sportsmen or people from pop music or popular culture. I was the only one from the other side of the line that came from politics and current affairs. I think to get through and come third, I think for me it's been a real achievement. I am thrilled with it, delighted, and want to thank everybody, particularly GB News, who I know and I've learnt now, backed me all the way. Thank you. Everybody that supported me, that voted for me, I'm very, very grateful, very flattered and very honoured.
Well, how are you going to consolidate that goodwill and turn it into votes?
Oh, Eamonn, you never give up, do you? The first thing I'm going to do is go out for dinner, because I'm starving.
Have you lost
We've
weight?
been living on rice and beans for a couple of weeks, so I'm going to go out for dinner. As for where life goes from here, I don't know. I mean, I've almost for a month been away from the news. From what I can see, the so-called Conservative government, I say so-called because they're not in the least bit Conservative, are in a state of total shambles, rudderless, leaderless, utterly useless, headed for catastrophe at the next election, deservedly so. That's not to say Labour will be any more competent, but somehow to think that I'm going to walk out of a jungle after 23 nights and announce a relaunch in British politics, frankly, is for the birds.
A lot has happened whilst you've been in there. Suella Braverman's been sacked. Your old nemesis, Lord Cameron, has come into the fold. Lord now, Foreign Secretary. We've also had net migration at 750,000. So much for you to digest there. But all the chatter, and I'm getting the impression from what you've just said is nonsense, but all the chatter is that you and Boris could create some sort of pact to restore the chances of the Conservatives. Now, you and I have spoken about this in the past, and you felt quite wronged by Boris in the past, that he reneged on a deal with you. Does that mean it's never going to happen again?
Never say never. Never say never. I can't predict right now what will happen. What I do think is that our country is being appallingly led, that there is no proper opposition party, and that we're living through a population crisis. And that really has little to do with the small boats, offensive though that is. It's due to the fact that over 17 million people voted for lower immigration, voted for more border controls. What they've got is a Conservative Party in hock to giant multinational businesses who want as much foreign labour as they possibly can. And if you want a GP appointment, you want to get a house for your kids, you want to drive anywhere without being stuck in on a terrible traffic jam, you can frankly go to hell. I don't believe that any government, any political class in Westminster has ever been more detached from ordinary folk. We are living through a population crisis on a level that nobody could ever anticipate. And immigration and numbers in Britain is going to become the dominant issue at the next election and for years to come. And if at some point, when I've recovered from the jungle, there's a role for me to play, I would not rule it out.
Interesting. Some people call it the dream ticket. Not ruling it out.
And if he didn't rule it out and say he became Prime Minister, he would be the only Prime Minister we've had whose bum we have seen. And the thing is...
We've talked about your bottom a lot over the last few weeks, Nigel. I'm really sorry to break this to you. And we have we've done a thorough analysis of it.
Isabel can't even look at you because she's seen more than she should have seen. But it's sort of eroticism, I think, with her. But a lot of people just...
Making me blush.
How would you describe Nigel's
His bottom? Very good bottom. Very impressed.
Yes.
It was the tight green lycra hot pants.
Oh, Dawn liked your hot pants. But anyway, we digress. Listen, we saw a personal side to you. I'm not talking about your private parts. But we saw your daughter, we saw your partner. This isn't something that we're used to seeing of Nigel Farage. Was that part of the calculation? Was it a nervous step for you to do that? Because I know in the public eye, that always exposes your family then to something different as well.
Well, I never ever want my family to be exposed to anything, but of course it's unavoidable with a show of this size. But I mean, you know, 2 points to make. One, I have been the most demonised person in modern British public life. You know, 10 years ago, there wasn't a single national newspaper, no significant business figure, trade union figure supported my views at all. I was the absolute fringe of the fringe, and yet what I stood for became a majority vote in the referendum. I wanted to show people that I'm not a monster. You can disagree with me, you can argue with me, but I have every right to express my views just as you do too. And when I fought in the jungle on issues with Fred and Nella and others, we finished up respecting the fact each other have points of view. After all, those that went before us fought wars for us to have that freedom. And the second point is about my bare backside, which apparently I've learned has become a story. I was told that I shouldn't be naked, and yet the doctor said personal hygiene really matters in the jungle. Checking yourself for horrors like leeches matter. Well, how could you do that unless you were naked? So I ignored what they said, and I continued to shower naked every day. Interestingly, many other campmates did the same. Only I got the publicity. But you know something? I couldn't care less.
Well, I don't think it did you any harm, Nigel.
It was much appreciated by many people, including Isabel and Dawn. Thank you very much indeed. Runner-up, third place, bronze medalist in the jungle.
Enjoy your dinner.
Nigel Farage, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Well, there we go. Let's get the reaction then from Dawn and Freddie. I mean, you're a bit more of a lycra hot pants fan than Dawn.
I'm glad I wasn't in the jungle because I would not have known where to look. There were the three of them, the three male finalists, in those skin-tight lycra, and Josie, bless her, wore her cycling shorts underneath them, but all the boys stripped off and just wore skin-tight lycra hot pants, and Nigel got the bright green hair. And I just honestly didn't know where to look. I mean, I really, you know, talk about jungle critters. I mean, it was, that would have been my bush tucker trial nightmare, spending that time with those three. But, I mean, fair play to everyone. It's a tough job.
Well, I just want to get Freddie's reaction, because there's a political story in what he just said there, and I would say overtures were being made, perhaps, when a door left open returned to politics.
I think certainly there was, and I think it was interesting the way he framed the immigration issue by talking about a population crisis. And this is something you're hearing more and more on the right. It's not about whether you like immigrants or hate immigrants. It's about the fact that we have a population crisis. And I think this shows his skill as a politician. And I think, actually, he's not a very good... I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I don't think he's a very good reality TV star. I didn't think he was very exciting to watch in the little that I saw. But I do think he's a brilliant politician. I think possibly one of the most consequential politicians of this generation. And the way that he talks about issues is extremely effective. He knows brilliantly how to target the issues the voters care about.
One issue politician, though. You know, he doesn't tackle the fact that there are, you know, you can say migration's too high, but there's all these job vacancies that need filling. You speak to Jeremy Hunt and the Treasury, they're desperate for migrants to come in.
Well, yes, but I mean those are two related points, and the point is that as he suggests, a lot of people are starting to believe, and not without reason, that the government cares more about filling low-paid jobs with low-paid labour from abroad than it does about people who live in this country and bring up their wages. That's a huge issue that he speaks to. Nobody else does. Someone else who does speak about it, which is on my list of stories here, is Donald Trump. And that is one of the reasons why, for all the horror that he induces, Donald Trump is currently on course Nigel Farage's friend, of course.
Yes, well, this is on the front of The Telegraph, and this is according to a new poll. Tell us more.
Well, the Wall Street Journal have done a big poll, and it shows Trump now on 47 points to Biden 43, which I think is one of the largest gaps we've seen. And Biden's job approval rating has dropped to below, it's down to 37%. At the same time in his presidency, Donald Trump's was on about 45%. So Biden is less popular than Trump was as a president. They're both going to run against each other. This seems inevitable. Obviously, lots could change. There's a long time to go. But as things stand, Democrats are starting to panic that Donald Trump is going to win that election. And if you remember what happened in 2020 and the rioting on the streets of cities across America, and the fact that before election night, most major American cities boarded up all their streets because they thought if Trump wins, there's going to be a sort of urban revolution in most cities.
Right,
2024 is going to get very nasty.
I want to talk about assisted dying now. And this is front page of the Times today, and these are recordings made by the actress Dame Diana Rigg, and they were made 3 years ago before her death. And it basically, she is imploring, she will do her best to address assisted dying. And she says, I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair that I don't have a choice whether I die or not. I think it's unfair that other people don't have a choice. Tell us what you think, Dawn.
It's an incredibly moving story, and Diana was diagnosed with lung cancer in March 2020, and it finally took her away in that same year. But these are recordings she did before she died. She was 82. And they've been released by her daughter, the actress Rachel Sterling. And she's talking about what it's like for her, the pain she's going through, and how it is so unfair that she has no choice in how she ends her life. And this has been released as part of a campaign to appeal to the government to let this country become like other European countries, that we have assisted dying in this country for those that are in terminal pain. And obviously there is lots of grey areas around this particular debate, but incredibly moving tapes. And she's just saying, we don't talk about how truly awful the details of her condition, which was lung cancer. And I lost my dad to lung cancer, so I do know exactly how awful it is. And
she says she didn't mind talking about it. I'm not frightened of describing the least attractive aspects of my condition. The fact of the matter is I've lost control of my bowels. This, to me, is quite the most dehumanising thing that can happen. So what do you think about this? People talk about this. I am totally in favour of this, assisted dying, and I think it's fine for anybody to preach about it when they're not going through the pain and the dehumanisation, as Diana Rigg calls it.
What do you think, Freddie?
Well, I think there's always an assisted dying push. There's always this legislation that comes into the Commons, and it is quite often rejected. And I think, although there are very good arguments in favour of euthanasia, which is effectively what we're talking about, assisted dying is just another way of phrasing it, there are also very good arguments against. And if you look at the countries where it has been allowed, you do now see a sort of growing creep on pressure on old people to say they'll get themselves out of the way. There was an amazing story in Holland 2 years ago where a family delayed the death, the assisted dying that they had organised for the father. They delayed it so that they could have a holiday and be back for the sort of death. Sorry. So I do think we are playing with something that is very morally consequential, and of course it's horrible that people have to suffer, and of course people should be able to die with dignity. But another point to be made, just quickly, is that when you legislate for these things, you actually restrict the freedom with which a lot of doctors and hospitals operate. And actually what you get in a lot of hospitals, no one likes to say it, but it's true, is a lot of euthanasia happens anyway. In a lot of cases,
just turning off the
everybody
feeding.
Just agrees.
A slight upping of the methadone, the pain killing, and the thing I would like to say about this is how many hospitals, and when you get an elderly relative that happens to us recently, an elderly relative going to hospital, and the first thing you're given is given a form saying, do you want a do not resuscitate order? So, what's the difference?
OK, we're going to pause from going through the papers with Dawn and Freddie, perhaps head back to you before the end of the hour, but we interrupt this now to speak to the Secretary of State for Defence, Grant Shapps. A very warm welcome to you. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on what is going to be a very busy week for the government. And, hey, it's been nearly a year. We haven't had a Conservative Party leadership contest or a new Prime Minister. It feels as though the party's gearing up for another fight in that direction.
No, I'm sure the media enjoys stirring these things up, but I don't think that's the case at all. And actually, you're right, it's going to be a busy week. I thought you were going to say, because today we're launching a maritime coalition for Ukraine to help with their war effort in the Black Sea, which is what I'm doing at Admiralty House this morning. And of course, there's another war going on in the Middle East, which is also occupying a lot of our time. And within all of that, we're passing tougher legislation to make sure that we can deport people who've been illegally trafficked here to Ukraine. So yes, a busy week, but for reasons that are very important for this country and the world.
Secretary of State, those two initiatives you're talking about there, can you explain to us how big the commitment is and what sort of strain that puts on your resources, if any?
With regard to Ukraine, we're launching something called the Maritime Capability Coalition. This is an international lead for the United Kingdom alongside Norway. And what we'll be doing is ensuring that Ukraine can help to reopen the Black Sea from Crimea and that area in order to export from Odessa and elsewhere their grain, their steel and other products. Immensely important for Ukraine. In terms of the cost to us, they're actually buying these ships. This was an agreement made before the war broke out, in fact. But we're also gifting some other items, but also getting the whole world to join in on ensuring that Ukraine is able to rebuild its naval base and have a Ukrainian navy capable of joining NATO one day as well. So that's the sort of purpose behind the initiative.
Bill Browder, a couple of hours ago on this programme, he's been speaking over the weekend about how Ukraine is just a matter of weeks away from running out of ammunition. But, you know, you blame the media for the reason that we're not necessarily focusing on Ukraine at the moment. But actually, I would put it to you that it's your own party at war with itself. That's the reason we're focusing on that. And that your own Prime Minister has scored a massive own goal and created, it's quite a talent, really, to alienate both wings in such an extreme way.
Well, look, if you're talking about the sort of Rwanda bill, first of all, I'd say this. We have been successful so far through different pieces of legislation, fought tooth and nail through Parliament against Labour, who tried to defeat them in the Lords in particular, where they have a majority. And that has led to the number of small boat crossings falling by a third, slashed by a third this year. Now, that still means there are boats crossing. And we think that Rwanda is the plan to show these people traffickers that their businesses bust. And that's why we think it's important to pass this piece of legislation. What I'd say is Parliament is perfectly at liberty to debate these things, and colleagues will have different views from right across the House. I mean,
yes, but Labour's not going to be your problem in all of this. It's your own party. I mean, I believe 29 is the magic number. If you get less than 29 votes, then this would be the first time, or yes, first time a second reading of a bill will have failed in this way since 1986. And if anyone abstains around 56, then it's a huge embarrassment. People are saying there could be a general election called as soon as this week.
I think we're getting rather ahead of ourselves. First of all, I don't think that's going to happen. I do think that the bill will have much more difficulty in the Lords, where Labour have already pledged to try to defeat it. Well, they don't have an answer. At least we're coming up with answers, as I say, already having success by slashing the number of crossings by a third. This will be the next step, and it would reduce the ability of people to be able to continue to play the system and stop themselves from being deported. And that's why I think it's very important that we unite behind it, pass this bill, bank the third reduction that we've got, but let's deal with the other two-thirds now, and this is the way to do it.
What about dealing with Nigel Farage? We've had an amazing PR exercise from him over the past few weeks, and the papers are awash with rumours that he will form with Boris Johnson some sort of Conservative dream ticket. Do you think Farage has reinvented himself?
Well, look, you'll forgive me. I've been dealing with, not just the conflict in Europe, but the one in the Middle East. I visited there at the end of last week as well. So I haven't been quite as focused on I'm a Celeb as you might hope. But I did notice that both Farage and Boris both said that wasn't going to happen. I think we can leave it there.
Farage was leaving the door open. We spoke to him just a few moments ago. You laugh at your peril, perhaps I might suggest. What about Gary Lineker? He's got some opinions on your latest Rwanda policy, as well as a number of other celebrities who've signed a letter enraged by the latest iteration of it.
Well, he should stick to football commentary. And I'd say this. What is moral about allowing criminal gangs to put people's lives at risk for large sums of money by trafficking them across the English Channel? What on earth has got into anyone's minds to think that we shouldn't challenge or tackle that disgusting trade in human misery? And so, again, unless he, Labour or anyone else have got a better plan, at least we're putting plans in place which are starting to have success, slashed by a third, and would do more in the future.
OK, a final question about the COVID inquiry. The last few moments, we've just seen the Prime Minister arriving there, ready for his questioning today. He's being dubbed in some of the papers this morning as Dr. Death. Will it be a good day or a bad day for him at the inquiry?
Well, look, first of all, I just say it's so easy in hindsight to sort of look at all these things with 20/20 vision and say, if only you'd done X at Y moment in time. The fact of the matter is Rishi Sunak, during COVID, saved millions of jobs in this country through the furlough programme and saved millions of businesses as well with huge amounts of support, over £400 billion. So I think we should actually remember that he was the guy who saved the economy, an economy which, against all the expectations previously, has actually grown this year as a result of the decisions he made not to allow businesses and jobs to go.
OK. Secretary of State, we've got to leave it there. We're just looking at pictures of the Prime Minister arriving at the COVID inquiry this morning. Appreciate your time. Have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get a check on the weather now with Ellie Glazier.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's been a bit of a drier start for most of us today, although quite a chilly start across parts of Scotland. We could see some icy stretches along southwestern parts of Scotland, but elsewhere, generally a much drier and brighter start to the new working week. Some showers pushing in across parts of northern and central England and along eastern coast of Scotland as well, but generally it'll be a dry afternoon for most of us with plenty of sunshine around. With some light winds as well, temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 12 degrees, so probably feeling a little more pleasant than we've seen over recent days. Through the rest of Monday, a change is on the way though. Low pressure sits out towards the west, slowly moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Monday and into Tuesday. This bringing some heavy rain and showers to Northern Ireland, Wales into Northern England and southwest England too through the early hours of Tuesday morning, and quite a cloudy night for most of us as that rain arrives. Blustery winds as well, helping to keep temperatures in the south perhaps even in the double figures, but a chilly night again across parts of Scotland. Through Tuesday morning, that rain continues to push its way north and eastwards, particularly heavy across parts of eastern Scotland through Tuesday morning, where we could see some localised flooding due to that very saturated ground. Further south, showers pushing in quite quickly from the southwest. These likely to turn very heavy in places, although there will be some sunnier breaks between those showers. Temperatures in the south around 10 to 12 degrees again, but a little closer to average across northern Scotland and parts of England.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion.
Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us. From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Akua, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new
Yes,
teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show, every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nine o'clock on the button. A very good morning to you. Start of a new day and a new week. It's Monday the 11th of December. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
And here's what we've got for you this morning. Rebellion brewing over the Prime Minister's Rwanda policy as backbench Tory MPs on the left and the right are weighing up their support for his bill. Christopher Hope has the latest from Westminster.
Rishi Sunak is in the COVID inquiry defending his record as Chancellor, but the real action is back here in Westminster, where his authority is under challenge from his own MPs.
Prime Minister has just arrived at the COVID inquiry. He will be quizzed over his Eat Out to Help Out scheme during the pandemic when he was Chancellor.
And it's all over for Nigel Farage in the jungle. He made it into the final of I'm a Celebrity last night, coming third.
Ellie Glaister with the weather latest.
Despite a drier and brighter start for many of us this morning, there's further wet and windy weather on the way. Join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
And we'll reflect what you have to say. gbviews@gbnews.com, or you can tweet at GB News.
Right, our top story this morning, a very busy day for the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. He's facing a rebellion from Conservative MPs over his latest Rwanda bill.
Well, a collection of Conservative MPs from the right wing have formed a star chamber, an unprecedented gathering of 4 backbench groups, which is due today to decide whether to support the latest Rwanda policy.
Well, on the more moderate side of the Conservative Party, approximately 100 MPs within the One Nation group will also meet to discuss their support for the Rwanda plan.
However, it will be COVID preoccupying most of the Prime Minister's day. from 10:30, Rishi Sunak will be giving evidence at the inquiry in his capacity as former Chancellor.
Well, just a moment ago, we spoke to the Secretary of State for Defence, Grant Shapps.
I think that Rwanda is the plan to show these people traffickers that their businesses bust. And that's why we think it's important to pass this piece of legislation.
Well, let's chat to our political editor, Christopher Hope, about all of this. I don't think it's overstating it, is it really, Christopher, to say this is possibly the biggest 24 hours of Rishi Sunak's premiership?
Yeah, it is. He's looking backwards and forwards, isn't he, in his career? Looking back to August 2020 when he was Chancellor, he launched Eat Out to help out to try and get restaurants trading again after that first lockdown at the start of the COVID pandemic. Was widely criticised by some people. Others thought he was doing his best to try and defy the issue of more lockdowns. That'll be tested by him this morning from 10:30. At lunchtime, he'll be checking in with his whips, because back here in Westminster, it really is kicking off for him. There's 4 right-wing Tory groups meeting at lunchtime. The so-called Star Chamber, a group of lawyers representing those groups, have been poring over the 12 pages of his Rwanda bill to see if it actually will work. Will it mean that flights can take off with migrants on them arriving here illegally, taking them to Rwanda for processing? The courts say that currently that can't happen under European human rights laws. The idea is that the UK is taking back control over those laws, disapplying areas of human rights legislation from the continent and making it happen. This is what many on the right want to happen. They're looking at that. They're saying, well, can it happen? They'll rule on that at around 2 o'clock. We'll bring that to you live on GB News. Later today, the One Nation group of left-wing Tory MPs, left-of-centre Tory MPs, they'll decide if it's going too far the other way. Is it ignoring human rights laws, the ECHR? That's their concern. And we'll hear from them early evening. They're deciding all that today, Eamonn and Isabel, because they want to have a chance to discuss their views with the whips ahead of the vote tomorrow night. If the government loses this big vote, the second reading vote on the Rwanda bill, it will be the first defeat in nearly 3 decades, a complete disaster for the PM that will kick off a very difficult few days for him as he tries to restore his authority over the party. It is really tense for him right here, and he's not where he wants to be. He wants to be here all day, talking to MPs. Instead, he's looking backwards at his time as Chancellor at the COVID inquiry.
And I suppose a triple threat, not just the COVID inquiry, not just his Rwanda bill, but also Nigel Farage coming out of the jungle, having reached out to a whole new group of potential voters. We spoke to him in the last half hour. He was leaving the door very much open to a return, possibly, to politics. Lots of chat about him and Boris joining forces. I don't know if you saw Grant Shapps there, very dismissive, actually laughed when I said that was a possibility. What did you make of that?
Well, I think Shapps may want to, or laughing is not wise if he talks to his own MPs. Many do see the re-emergence of Farage back in the Tory party. He first left about 20 or 30 years ago as a possibility, certainly post-election. Again, we've been asking Mr Sunak, Prime Minister, this a couple of times in the past 4 months. He has told me it's a broad church. He didn't mean it was an ITV mystery drama. He meant the Tory party was open to more people joining it, including Mr Farage and his supporters, and that's a big concern, I think, for the Tory party. Quite where it is reform, I don't know whether Richard Tice is happy about that remark, but when you asked him, Isabel, would you form a pact with Boris Johnson to save the Tory party, Nigel, he said never say never, and that's saying it in terms. I mean, when he's going to re-emerge now after 3 weeks being away from politics, it could be quite dramatic.
OK.
Chris, leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. As we go to get Labour's reaction as to what is going on, that's Minister without Portfolio Nick Thomas-Symonds with this morning. When it comes to this civil war, Nick, within the Conservative Party, you guys as an opposition, you must be losing your patience on all of this. Is it time for an election?
I think it is time for an election, Eamonn, but it's not just about us as an opposition. I think people I speak to on the doorsteps up and down the country are losing patience with this Conservative government. It's like this ongoing Conservative soap opera. We've got this merry-go-round of prime ministers and of chancellors of the Exchequer, huge instability in the government. We seem to be back to that position now with the latest Conservative prime minister's authority shredded once again. And it really is time to give the British people their say, rather than having a government in office where, frankly, its only purpose is trying to secure its own survival, really isn't in the interests of the country. I think it is for the British people to have their say as soon as possible. And that, frankly, is what the Prime Minister should be doing, rather than just continuing in this way, causing damage to the country, which is what's happening.
How will you be voting on the bill tomorrow, and how will your party, when you speak for Labour as well tomorrow?
Well, we won't be supporting the Rwanda plan. We believe it is an unworkable, failing, astronomically expensive scheme. So far, the government has spent £290 million, and that, at the moment, has produced travel to and from Rwanda for 3 Conservative Home Secretaries. And frankly, the government is just continuing to throw good money after bad on this scheme, when actually what they should be doing is the difficult, painstaking work that's required to stop people crossing the channel in these very vulnerable small boats. And first and foremost, I would suggest redirect that money to a new cross-border policing unit within the National Crime Agency that can bust the criminal smuggler gangs, get a grip of the asylum system here in the UK, 165,000 people at the moment stuck in it, 56,000 in hotels, and get the returns agreements as well, which mean that people who have no right to be here can be returned. That's the hard work that's required to deal with this, not this continuing gimmick.
Yeah, although there's no redirecting of the funds, obviously that's been spent. You'd have to find new money in order to do that. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, says that if Labour doesn't vote for his bill tomorrow, then you're not serious about stopping the boats.
He isn't serious about stopping the boats, given his continuation with this, frankly, quite ridiculous scheme. And in relation to your point about money, of course we accept we may not be able to get back money that's already been handed over to the Rwanda government. But the government has also allocated money for the next financial year. They've allocated £50 million, which, of course, we could redirect to a cross-border policing unit. And that's precisely what we would do. You know, I've been in the past down to Dover. I've been across to Paris. I understand the complications of this issue. People don't simply become refugees in northern France. People are usually traveling several thousand miles, being exploited by these criminal smuggler gangs. And it's that hard work we need to do internationally to bust their business model and to prevent people getting onto the channel in the first place.
Facetious here or in any way irrelevant, but Nick, Nigel Farage in the jungle, has he pushed the cause of democracy in any way? Does he form a better link between guys like yourself and the electorate?
Well, look, I haven't watched it this year, Eamonn. I've obviously seen the coverage that Nigel Farage came third as Matt Hancock did last year. I suppose, Nigel Farage isn't a sitting MP, whereas I thought Matt Hancock going to the jungle as a sitting MP was the wrong thing to do. I thought Matt Hancock should have been serving his constituents. Look, Nigel Farage is a free citizen. He can do what he wishes. But I thought it's interesting, listening to some of your earlier coverage, how desperate the Conservative Party is becoming. Talking about Nigel Farage, talking, it seems, about bringing back Boris Johnson as, disgraced former Prime Minister. They've already brought back one former Prime Minister in recent weeks. So they're seriously now talking about bringing back another. It's just, as I say, this continuing Tory chaos just isn't putting the country first.
To be fair, they've got more to choose from than Labour. They've had more successful Prime Ministers. But may I just ask you finally, lots of Labour politicians quite, what's the word I'm looking for, complacent, sitting back, looking and think that they can just win the next election. Would a coalition between Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage be more of an electoral threat than the current Conservatives? Can you just tell me that?
I think it would be a coalition of desperation. In relation to your first point, just for a moment, the Conservatives have certainly had more Prime Ministers than Labour. I'm not sure they've had more successful Prime Ministers than Labour, though. And I think the reality is, here we are, 13 years into a Conservative government, tax burden at its highest level since the war, public services are on their knees, economic growth is tiny or non-existent. People can see through exactly where the Conservatives are. I doubt we could name one public service a better place than 2010. So whether it's Farage, Johnson, Sunak, Cameron, pick your former Tory Prime Minister or politician of the past, it's their record.
Well, perhaps you'll agree with your leader, Sir Keir Starmer, that Margaret Thatcher was one successful Conservative Prime Minister. We have to leave it there. Nick Thomas-Symonds, Shadow Minister without portfolio, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. We look ahead to 9:30, Britain's newsroom, Andrew, and it's Pip today. You guys from 9:30. What have you got?
Well, obviously, the Prime Minister under siege on Rwanda because we're going to get decrees and announcements throughout the day as to which groups of Tory MPs will or won't support his Rwanda plan. Poor old Rishi, because he's before the COVID inquiry as well today.
He's just around the corner, probably wishing he was in Westminster.
I think he would like to be in LA, quite frankly.
Yeah, anywhere but
or
here.
walking his dog in Hyde Park.
Because he's going to be quizzed over help out to eat out.
No one can remember it.
I know.
Eat out to help out.
Did it spread it? And also furlough, which billions of pounds in fraud.
Do you remember, though, at the time that furlough was announced, he was everybody's hero, Dishy Rishi.
He was the most popular Chancellor of the Exchequer we'd ever had.
Where did it all go wrong?
Well, it's easy to be popular when you're giving people money.
In all seriousness, this bill tomorrow, you'll have been doing the maths. I mean, how much of a crisis is this for Rishi Sunak personally? I mean, could we realistically be talking about general elections or indeed new Prime Minister?
If he was defeated tomorrow, all bets are off. But I don't think he will be.
You don't think he will be?
It is unheard of for a second reading piece of legislation to be defeated. It'll happen in January. That's when he gets into real trouble, when all sorts of amendments will come forward, and then I think he's got a real fight in his hands. But I'd be amazed if he's defeated tomorrow. If he is, he's in terrible trouble.
But a vote of no confidence, I mean, that would just be...
Well, the Tories would rally around him. They would.
Unite or die, as Ian Duncan Smith once said.
They can't have a sixth Prime Minister since 2016. Country was going mad. The people would be out there with pitchforks outside number 10 demanding a coup. They can't.
It's gridlock.
I know. And of course we're going to talk about Nigel.
Oh, yeah, Nigel. Yes. Well, he was leaving the door open.
I was getting emails from the team at the weekend saying, if Nigel wins, blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm sorry, he's not going to win. Sam Thompson is going to win. And our boss, didn't he? He said, I'm going to bring some humble pie for you tomorrow, Pip. I said, Andrew can feed it to me on air.
There we are.
He ain't going to do it.
That's that sorted.
Yeah, exactly. What does humble pie taste like?
We have is our giveaway.
Oh, this is very exciting.
Big money too.
With this.
Yes,
especially this time of year.
This is 10,000 quid in cash. A brand new iPhone, shopping vouchers could all be yours.
Here's how you can enter.
It's the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win 3 amazing prizes that will get your new year off to a great start. First, there's a terrific £10,000 in cash to be won. Imagine what you can do with that. We'll also give you a tech update with the very latest iPhone 15 Pro Max, plus £500 worth of shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store. The retail therapy could be on us. For your chance to win the iPhone, the vouchers and £10,000 cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB01, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 5th of January. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
Wasn't enough to look forward to. Stay tuned for a special sneak peek of a new studio that we have built away here from Paddington and in Westminster, so you can have even more politicians and more political talk. A lot of people are saying, what does it look like, Eamonn? Well, I'll show you next.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So it's December the 11th, and it now gets to the stage where you suddenly go, have I got my Christmas presents? Nope. Have I wrapped things? Nope. Have I got all the Christmas cards? Nope.
I'm feeling a bit smug.
Are you?
I've got 6 godchildren, a niece and a nephew, and obviously my own kids. I've done 5 out of the 6 godchildren.
Oh, gosh.
Done my niece and nephew.
Oh, I'm
done some of my own kids. So, yeah, I'm feeling organised.
No, I can tell you now, if you have a shop which offers wrapping, that wrap presents
what
with
I
people
end
on,
up having to do
you
all
will
the
get
wrapping.
all my business, right? I would just say, yeah, I don't care what you sell, I'll buy it. As long as you wrap it, that will be good. But no, I've got big meetings today. I don't have enough time today.
Christmas cards? Written your Christmas cards?
No, I'm just saying no to all of the above. No to all of the above.
Yeah.
But what I can unwrap for you now is a brand new GB News studio, which is set to be used for the first time tonight. Now, it's not instead of this one that we're in, it's in addition to this one.
So when Nigel Farage comes back from the jungle, he won't recognise his new home. Glitzy new studio. GB News political editor Christopher Hope has got a little sneak peek for you. Let's have a look.
Hello viewers, hello listeners. Christmas has come early here at GB News because guess what? Our brand new Westminster studio is opening this week. Right here we've got a set all ready for Nigel Farage's return from the jungle. And over here, if I can get round in time, is our new Westminster set. Live for all the best interviews, the biggest interviews for GB News viewers and listeners here from the heart of Westminster. Keep watching. It's going to be a very exciting year.
Ooh, it looks very, very professional.
Well,
it's got computers in the desk and
it's got
everything.
angles. It's got angles.
It's got a curved desk. It's lovely and light. Tick, tick, tick. I approve of that. That looks great.
Yes, looks very, very nice.
We had one that nice.
Yeah.
That'll be next.
Well,
maybe if we ask Father Christmas, maybe we'll get one next year.
Look at the size of this desk now.
To be fair, we've got a nice big desk.
So anyway, we're going to be multi-stationed around the capital. Now, we've been chatting about, throughout the programme, we've been asking you, Nigel Farage, what do you think of him in the jungle? What repercussions will there be from him finishing third? Will it make politics more popular? Let's now have a look at some of your thoughts on Nigel's night in the jungle, or 20 nights, or whatever he did.
I believe he came across as a real natural leader, full of wit and sarcasm, which was absolutely hilarious.
He proved to be a very likeable chap. I think he made a good contribution in terms of his dialogue and doing the day-to-day chores. He certainly mucked in. And I'd like to think we saw a genuine entertainer, as he's always game for a trial.
Very, very good at delegating, very calm, very relaxed, has an air of authority about him, and sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Could make a good Prime Minister, maybe.
Now, that guy's on GB News more often than I am, so he is. And every week we say, stop using the same people to talk about the same subjects, but no one seems to listen. We do have more than those 6 viewers and listeners, but however, it is very, very nice to hear them. We see them as family, as regulars.
We do. Listen, it's a box office day of news today. We'll be right across all of it right here on the channel. We've got Rishi Sunak in the witness box from 10 o'clock. We've got the right of the party announcing their views on the bill at midday, and then the One Nation's at 7 o'clock this evening.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere.
Whatever you do, have a good day. See you in the morning.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's been a bit of a drier start for most of us today, although quite a chilly start across parts of Scotland. We could see some icy stretches along southwestern parts of Scotland, but elsewhere, generally a much drier and brighter start to the new working week. Some showers pushing in across parts of northern and central England and along eastern coast of Scotland as well, but generally it'll be a dry afternoon for most of us with plenty of sunshine around. With some light winds as well, temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 12 degrees, so probably feeling a little more pleasant than we've seen over recent days. Through the rest of Monday, a change is on the way though. Low pressure sits out towards the west, slowly moving its way towards the UK through the rest of Monday and into Tuesday. This bringing some heavy rain and showers to Northern Ireland, Wales into Northern England and southwest England too through the early hours of Tuesday morning, and quite a cloudy night for most of us as that rain arrives. Blustery winds as well, helping to keep temperatures in the south perhaps even in the double figures, but a chilly night again across parts of Scotland. Through Tuesday morning, that rain continues to push its way north and eastwards, particularly heavy across parts of eastern Scotland through Tuesday morning, where we could see some localised flooding due to that very saturated ground. Further south, showers pushing in quite quickly from the southwest. These likely to turn very heavy in places, although there will be some sunnier breaks between those showers. Temperatures in the south around 10 to 12 degrees again, but a little closer to average across northern Scotland and parts of England.
Well, morning to you. With Pip Thompson this morning, and it's a big day for the Prime Minister. He's on the rack, putting it mildly, over Rwanda, opposition coming from all sides of the party, and...
Well, big day, big week. He's also at the COVID inquiry at 10 o'clock. We will be bringing you that live. Remember the Eat Out to Help Out scheme? Lots of controversy over that. But back in March 2020 with furlough, he was known as Dishy Rishi, wasn't he? What went wrong?
Halcyon days they were.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion.
Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Akua, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Monday the 11th of December. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Andrew Pearce, and Pip Thompson.
Rwanda rebellion. Divisions within the Conservative Party loom large ahead of the vote on the Rwanda policy tomorrow. Our political editor Chris Hope has the latest.